instead of feeling so alive. Coffee in the morning, it's the best way to survive. Woke up in the morning, sleepy eyes yawning. Jumped out of bed, started the day, opened the curtains. Felt the cool breeze, the sun shining on my face. But something was missing, I needed my job to chase. Give me coffee in the morning, give me coffee in the morning. Gotta have the caffeine, wake me up, shake me up, dip me back a lussie. One sip, two sips, instead of feeling so alive. Coffee in the morning, it's the best way to survive. Woke up in the morning, sleepy eyes yawning. Jumped out of bed, started the day, opened the curtains. Felt the cool breeze, the sun shining on.
Where did we go? Where did oh, wait a minute. This thing is crazy. I can't see us.
I can't either.
I can now.
There we are. There we
It
go.
helps if I click the right button. I'm still learning this damn Restream layout. I played with it last night and early this morning trying to make sure I had everything straight for you guys. See, y'all wouldn't call me the Hot Mess Express. I call myself that. I'm like, don't be the Hot Mess Express. Well, good morning, and thank you for coming in and joining me this morning. How are you guys?
Good morning. Just sitting here drinking some tea.
Yeah, good morning, Forrest, and good morning, Pokemon. My newest mod. I have two. Well, we have three. Dan comes in when he can, but he's at work all the time. Good morning, guys. Thanks for being here. We'll give it a few minutes. I don't even know if my notification went out on my phone. It may have. I didn't look. Hold on. I got a message from my kid's doctor. Oh. Nothing. Okay. Everybody have a good night. Everybody sleep okay?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a notification. I see it now.
Yeah. Same old. Don't even bring it up. Okay.
I'm still
Sorry,
not
guys,
adjusted
I'm
to my
just
time
getting
zone here. I'm up at 3:00 in the morning, like every morning still. I'm not adjusted
I've been
yet.
up for a while.
Yeah, you probably were you up all night again?
I think I woke up about I took a nap early and I might have gotten up about 2, so I've been up since 2. So I've been up like 8 hours.
Yeah. Goodness. I thought I would I'm finally not waking up in the middle of the night no more. Sometimes I still do, but I slept pretty good last night, but I was up. Cat woke me up this morning. She was meowing before daylight. Like, get up and give me food. I'm like, girl, I might have to get her one of the little automatic cat feeders.
Oh, yeah. This one that I just bought for the dog is really nice.
Yeah, I could probably get like a little small one like a dog would use, huh? And it'll be a little cat feeder.
Mm.
And she
No,
might
this actually
eat
was for cats. I
constantly.
think cats is what they
Right?
had listed first, and dogs. I'll send you the link in Discord.
I've never used one of those automatic feeders. What does it do? Just spit out a little bit at a time, or do you program it or
Program it.
something? Okay.
And
Oh, shoot, anything to make
it
my life easier.
got an app, and if you want, you can manually feed them. And I think you can program it to say something, but I didn't do all that. You just hear it, clinking in the
To
bowl.
talk to them? I'm gonna have to get one for my son's dog, like,
Well,
Shiloh.
you know what? That's apparently what was going off in the background at that Jennifer Soto interview.
That's funny you
It
bring
sounded like
that
a
up.
bird or whatever. Yeah,
Yes.
it
Remember
was
we
the
were all
feeder.
like this had a crazy ass bird in the background because it was screaming and it was actually the dog feeder. That was so crazy, wasn't it? To be watching that interview and then hear that and Jennifer sitting there with that weird look on her face like she's
Yeah.
I thought, you know what I thought at first? I
Mhm.
thought it was Stefan in the background talking to the dogs. And I was
Oh.
like, what is this fool doing in the background talking to these animals while she's giving an interview about the missing child? And I was like, I was so glad when I figured out what was really happening there. I was getting mad.
Yeah.
Like, this dude's a freak, which,
Well, when
he
when the
is.
cats get used to hearing that feeder drop food in there, I've seen some of those reaction videos. They have a Pavlovian response where they just like go tearing across the house to get to that feeder
To
as
get
soon as
to
that
it.
Yeah.
drops.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, because I have an inside cat and an outside cat. The pole barn cat, I found bird feathers in his little house the other day, though. I have a little house out there. It was actually a dog kennel, but I turned it into a cat house.
Mhm.
And he's got a little blanket in there and stuff, packing blanket and a regular blanket. Well, of course, I was cleaning everything out. And so I have him a cool area under the pole barn set up, and I wanted him to be warm when we had our really bad cold spells. Anyway, I get the crate out and I get the blankets out and I'm going to go wash them and get him all fixed up. And as I'm pulling the two blankets out, I'm like, what the heck? There's
Mhm.
bird feathers coming out. I'm like, this cat, he's definitely an outside tomcat, you know. But
Yeah.
maybe I'll get him one too. Then I don't got to worry about feeding these three animals constantly.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we all love our animals though.
Oh, definitely.
So we're going to get into some case updates this morning. There was a new update in the Ellen Greenberg case. Are Joffin, you're familiar with that case, right, Joe?
Yeah, I just haven't been paying attention to
Y-
updates, but
Yeah. Yeah, there's only been a few developments over the past couple of months, but they were leading up to what just happened, so we're going to review that. Um,
mhm.
it's an old case, you know. I mean, it's been out there for years now, but there's been a lot of fuckery, I'll just say it, with that
Oh, yeah.
case
Mhm.
from the beginning. Um, and it's intriguing to figure out why that happened. I know her husband or her fiance at the time, he had some pretty good ties in the community. His uncle was a judge.
Okay.
Yeah, his uncle was like a judge there. He had other family members and close friends that were all high up, you know, in the
Mhm.
community. Um, so that's part of the reason they believe a cover up started. Not just, oh, it's a bad investigation with a bad conclusion to what the cause of death was, that all of that was tied into protecting Sam, her fiance. Um,
Right.
yes, Pokemon, her parents never let up. They continued to fight, and they're finally getting some justice for Ellen and themselves, you know. So we're going to take a look at that here this morning as well. Let me get my screens pulled up, guys, and we'll get started with this stuff. Let me get it over here.
Joe, were you familiar with this case?
I am not. No.
Mm.
This is going to be news
Oh,
to me.
I wish did I have the picture? If
Yeah,
you've
that's
seen
mind
the,
blowing. Yeah.
I know I've got it on my. Let me. I'll send it to
I'll
myself
see if
real
I
quick.
can. Oh, okay.
Yes, I can send it from my phone to myself. But Joe, you've seen the diagram of how many times of the placement of the knives. I think it might be on one of the pieces where
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
her.
yeah.
Yes, that
Okay.
story. So
Okay.
let me pull up an article piece that we're going to look at first, and then we'll go into the little video clip I have. That way we can get a little bit of the backstory here. Let me share the screen. Okay. uh, I gotta make this one over here smaller, so I can make this side bigger. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. All right. So this is the case of Ellen Greenberg.
Oh, and we disappeared.
Yeah. She had so many stab wounds, but it was determined initially to be a suicide, which is
Yes,
just absolutely insane.
yes. And despite 20 knife wounds and 11 bruises, Ellen Greenberg's death was ruled a suicide. The pathologist changed his mind. Um, this was just put out like 2 days ago, guys. 14 years ago, on a snowy evening in Philadelphia, Ellen Greenberg was found dead on the kitchen floor of her apartment. She had 20 knife wounds, and numerous bruises. Authorities ruled her death a suicide. Greenberg was a 27-year-old schoolteacher. Her parents insisted she'd been murdered. They fought to have the ruling amended. Now, after years of investigation, multiple lawsuits, an online petition has drawn more than 166,000 signatures. The pathologist who performed her autopsy says he has changed his mind. Dr. Marlon Osborne signed a document Friday saying that after considering new information in the case, he no longer believes that Greenberg killed herself. Now, what new information do you suppose he could have got that caused him to change his mind? Greenberg's
Maybe he
parents.
was out. Maybe
Go
he
ahead.
was out in his garage playing with a box cutter.
Right? And then it just epiphany, right? Lord. We see how these medical examiners are starting to work. Let's just willy-nilly pull something out of the air. Greenberg's parents, if you don't know, just say you don't know, right? Um, Greenberg's parents resolved their claims against Osborne over the weekend, one of their attorneys said. And on Monday, just before a jury could be impaneled in a separate suit by the Greenbergs against various city officials, the remaining parties reached a settlement in both lawsuits. The Greenbergs were seeking damages for what they called a conspiracy to cover up Ellen's murder. Philadelphia city spokesperson Ava Schwelmer, so did I say that correctly? Schwelmer said that while city officials did not admit liability, the Greenbergs will receive a monetary payment, the amount of which will be disclosed at a later date. At the city's medical examiner's office will re-examine the Greenberg case. They're very excited. Her mother said, I think there was a news video embedded in this somewhere. The pathologist initially ruled the death a homicide. It all began on the 26th of 2011, January 26, 2011 at 6:30 p.m. Greenberg's fiance, Sam Goldberg, called 911 and said, I just walked into my apartment. My fiance is on the floor with blood everywhere. More than 2 minutes passed before Goldberg mentioned a shocking detail. A knife was sticking out of Ellen's chest. She stabbed herself, he said. Where? The 911 operator said. She fell on a knife, Goldberg said. The next day, Dr. Osborne conducted an autopsy. He noted that many stab wounds as well as bruises in various stages of healing. Writing that she was stabbed by another person. He ruled the case a homicide. So she had healing bruises. What were you doing to this girl? Investigators were so convinced that Ellen had killed herself, they released the scene without calling in the crime scene unit.
That's ridiculous. I didn't know that part of it.
I didn't either, Dolphin. That just floored me when I read
So
that.
they didn't even bother.
No.
Wow.
Isn't that? Wow is right, man. Bullshit. By the time investigators returned, the apartment had been professionally cleaned.
Jesus.
Potential evidence had been washed away. I don't blame these parents. I'd have fought hard tooth and nail to the very bitter end. This is what you're supposed to do for your children when this kind of thing goes down. The police held fast to their determination of suicide, partly because it appeared that Ellen had been alone when she died. What the hell? Get off of there. We do not care. Investigators thought the door was fastened from the inside by a swing bar latch, and initial reports indicated that Goldberg had been accompanied by a security guard while forcing open the door. Remember that statement right there. We're going to take a look at something in a minute that contradicts that. He says in the initial report, he indicated to them that there was a latch on the inside of the door, like they said, it's a swing arm. He claims it was locked from the inside, and that he got the security guard to go up with him to the apartment door and forcefully enter the door. According to the security guard, that didn't happen. So we'll take a look at that in just a minute.
Oh, I didn't know that. I do remember, didn't he say that he was at the gym?
At the
and then
gym.
he came home from the gym and then found her like that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Osborne later said in a deposition, she's the only one found in the apartment with nothing disturbed, nothing out of place, and no other way of getting in there. It doesn't lend to the fact that someone else was there to do it. So that was discounted. Because the man told you the door was locked from the inside, but you had no actual proof. So you just believed it, and well, there was no reason to do anything because it was nobody else could have been in there because the door was locked.
Oh,
But
but you know what?
what?
Those latch locks are the kind that what do you call it? At hotels or whatever, they say people can actually still get into those latch locks from the outside of a room. That and a chain lock, you could actually like, disengage
Yeah,
and re-engage, both kinds.
and
So,
he
yeah.
probably knew how to if it was his
Mhm.
apartment, right? He
Yep.
probably practiced it or something. Let me see how I can pull this off with my sinister mind. Osborne later said in a deposition, oh, I'm sorry, I read that part. After conferring with law enforcement officials, Osborne amended the death certificate to suicide after conferring with law enforcement officials.
After
Officially,
he was pressured.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. But her parents did not accept that conclusion. As they later said, they wanted to exonerate their daughter, and one by one, they found experts who agreed. They noted pathologist Cyril Welch said the case was strongly suspicious of homicide. A crime scene reconstructionist said it appeared Greenberg's body had been moved. And another outside pathologist, Wayne Ross, pointed out a hemorrhage in her neck muscles that he thought was indicative of strangulation. He wrote that the various bruises on her body were consistent with a repeated beating. As for the claims about the apartment door, those were less certain than they were first appeared. Melissa Ware, who managed Greenberg's apartment building, told CNN that the latched door didn't prove Greenberg had locked herself in. It was possible, she said, that the latch swung by itself in response to a closing door. I can see that happening. It
Oh yeah.
happened to her, she said. Because if you close the door hard enough, it might cause it to swing, if it's
Mhm.
flimsy. Um, and maybe he knew that if I shut the door hard, that thing's going to latch. A security guard said he had not been there when the fiance forced open the door. And despite two relatives' claims they'd been on the phone with Greenberg when he forced open the door, a CNN analysis of phone records and other evidence seemed to contradict that claim. Now, why would you lie for your relative? Well, I mean, I know why some people would, but if you're in a position of a certain stature, you wouldn't want to get yourself in trouble over somebody, would you? Last November, Goldberg gave a statement to CNN lamenting what he called the pathetic and despicable attempts to desecrate my reputation and her privacy by creating a narrative that embraces lies, distortions, and falsehoods in order to avoid the truth. Mental illness is very real and has many victims. Gaslighting her even once she's gone. But on Friday, a judge issued a ruling that would allow the Greenbergs a second lawsuit to go to jury trial. A series of legal maneuvers followed, and Dr. Osborne, now the pathologist of Pompano Beach, Florida, signed a document that amended his long held position. New information led him to a new ruling. Trask, one of Greenberg's attorneys, said Osborne produced the statement as a way of resolving the lawsuit with the Greenbergs. He said the Greenbergs agreed Monday to release Osborne from the suit. Osborne's statement cited additional information he'd gotten since he issued the amended death certificate. I am now aware that information exists which draws into question, for example, whether Ellen's fiance was witnessed entering the apartment before placing the 911 call on the 26th, whether the door was forced open as reported, whether Ellen's body was moved by someone else. This guy's crazy because he's not a crime scene investigator. He is the medical examiner guy. So the fact that all that investigation stuff, the door being closed, locked, forceful entry, eyewitnesses, you should have put all that out of your head, Mr. Tunnel Vision, and focused on her wounds, right?
Yeah.
regardless of all the other nonsense. But okay.
But they are supposed to take into account some other factors
Well,
of the scene
yeah,
or whatever, but
I understand that.
that
Yeah,
one didn't have anything to do with the body, but
yeah, yeah. You're right, but I mean, it sounds like he just took all that into account, and that's what made him decide that it was suicide. Like, yeah, the door may have been locked, and he may have had to force himself in there, but her wounds just don't line up with suicide, do they? Um, Ellen's body was moved by someone else inside the apartment with her at or near the time of her death, and the findings of Lindsay's Emery, MD, from her neuropathological evaluation of Ellen's cervical segment sample. Wow, they've done some intense testing on with her case. Her parents did. They hired some expert, and I have the video somewhere. I just couldn't find it this morning, where they did a recreation in this whole thing, right? And it was really
mhm,
good and it was expensive. But um they didn't get to use it. They went to I had to find it to explain it better. So them getting monetary money back in a lawsuit, certainly they deserve it because they spent a lot of money over the last 14 years fighting this case, and hiring these attorneys and all the things that they've had and the experts and all the things that come with it. I mean, it's
mhm,
probably put them in a really bad financial position. Um, the Philadelphia Medical Examiner said in 2021 deposition that it appeared Greenberg had been stabbed in the back of her neck after she was dead. She later filed a declaration walking back that conclusion and saying there could have been other explanations for lack of vital response in one of her wounds.
Oh, good grief. Could have been. Could
Could.
have been. She could have stabbed herself in the back of the neck 12 times.
To kill yourself. I'm sorry. Trigger warning, people. It's a sensitive topic. I know. I don't mean to make light of it. But if you're going to harm yourself, are you going to be? I mean, I know people do this self harm stuff, but they don't mention any history in we see healing bruises, but we don't see healing cut wounds, right? So she wasn't one of those people who were into that. But could you imagine trying to harm yourself and stabbing yourself in the back of the neck to do it? Like, I'm not trying. I don't know. There's just so many other ways to do it, right? It never made sense, especially when you see the diagram of where all the knife wounds and stabs actually were. There's
Yeah,
just
and the most the
20
most
times,
the most
a complete
common form of
breakdown.
unaliving yourself, especially among women, is overdose. I mean, take a whole bunch of pills.
Exactly.
That's the most common.
Exactly. That's the most peaceful, easy way out, right? I mean, I'm assuming. I'd have never tried it or attempted or thought about it, but I think if I did, that would probably be my choice. Just lay down and go to sleep. I don't think, especially if she was already on medication, if she did have some sort of issues happening and was on an antidepressant or something of that nature, she probably would have chose a different method.
yeah.
Hmm. Okay, so
By the way, if
go ahead.
you do have an inclination to feel that way, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, just dial 988. Just
Thank
pick up
you.
the phone and dial 988.
988. You guys
Get
hear
some
what
help.
Joe just said? 988 if you ever need it. Or reach out to somebody that you trust, Reach out to me. I don't care. It's not you have other options, I promise. Okay. So let's see. With her Osborne's departure, that left two defendants as jury selection began Monday morning. Sam Giuliano, the city's former chief medical examiner, and police detective John McNamee. Both have denied wrongdoing in the case. Just before 11:30, one of Greenberg's relatives at the courthouse reported that the jurors had been dismissed. Minutes later, Greenberg's attorney, Joe Pedraza, gave a statement to the reporters. Now, the rest of what they're going to talk about is going to be in the news piece we're going to watch. So I'm not going to read all of this because I know I've already read through it and it's over with anyway. And what we're going to watch is going to be, and it's a one news clip I got for us to check out a couple of things extra that were in it. But yeah, it's unbelievable that they even ruled it as suicide. When I first heard of the case, a long time ago, do something here. And as the case progressed and, true crimers started getting, I started seeing tweets and stuff about it. And I began to check it out. I was like, holy cow, how could they even, conclude that that was a suicide? I have no clue how they can. Okay. This is from a local media story. I chose to do theirs instead of Court TV's. I felt it was more informative. Okay.
Well, today, a bombshell decision in court over the death investigation of a 27-year-old teacher. Ellen Greenberg was found dead with 20 stab wounds in her Manayunk apartment back in 2011. Her death was ruled a suicide, but now the case faces a new chapter. Action News reporter Annie McCormick has more on the decision.
Sandy and Josh Greenberg left City Hall beaming today while holding a picture of their daughter, Ellen.
It's been 14 years that we've been trying to clear Ellen Ray Greenberg's name.
Today, the city of Philadelphia settled 2 lawsuits brought by the family. Jury selection began this morning in the civil suit accusing the city of emotional distress for mishandling Ellen's death investigation.
They did everything they possibly could to stand in our way. Instead of helping us.
In 2011, Ellen was found stabbed more than 20 times in her locked Manayunk apartment she shared with her fiancé. Her fiancé has never been accused of foul play. Philadelphia medical examiner Dr. Marlon Osborne, seen here in a deposition, initially ruled her death a homicide, then weeks later switched it to suicide. In a verification statement filed in the courts this weekend, Dr. Osborne stated, quote, "Since issuing the amended death certificate, I have become aware of additional information and, quote, it is my professional opinion Ellen's manner of death should be designated as something other than suicide."
That was what the Greenbergs have fought for 14 years.
Attorney William Trask of Lamb McErlane has been fighting alongside the Greenbergs for 5 years. Today's decision also impacts the first civil suit filed by the Greenbergs, set to go before the state Supreme Court. That suit to compel the city to change the determination from suicide to homicide or undetermined was also settled.
Now the city's agreed that the current medical examiner will reopen Ellen's case and look at the evidence of her manner of death and come to their own conclusion.
In a statement released by the city today, they said that the settlement includes an independent review of the autopsy file. The Greenbergs' attorney said that an undisclosed monetary amount is also included in that settlement. Reporting along the Parkway, Annie McCormick, Channel 6, Action News.
Okay. Now I'm going to give y'all a little clip of that security guard talking to Brian Enton, and then we're going to move on to our next update. Let me get my
Okay, that should be
playlist back
interesting.
up here. Yeah, when I remembered seeing it a while back, and I was like, oh no, I've got to go find that for this morning's show because I wanted to show it and I found it super easy. So now I got it saved so I can always go back to it. In my Ellen Greenberg playlist. I'm trying to stay organized for us. So, okay, so this is going to be a little interview with the security guard, and they do have a warning up on screen. I'll show you guys. Yeah, I have to click continue. The following content may contain suicide or self-harm topics.
I do not have enough airtime to run down all the reasons that suicide is a very hard sell in the death of Ellen Greenberg. But here is one. Ellen's fiance, the man who found her body, told police that he had to break down the door to get to her and was with building security, the actual guard, when he did so. The trouble is that security guard told police he was nowhere near that fiance or that door when the door got kicked in. Our Brian Enton, of course, tracked down that security guard 13 years later after Ellen's death. And here's what he has to say about it today.
Did Sam ever ask you to go, or did you ever go with Sam up to the door when he was trying to get in?
No.
Do you know where that story came from?
Came from him. He know I didn't walk up with him. And I get angry when I hear that, because for him to lie on me or any concierge who would have been there at that particular time says a lot about him.
We were just at Ellen's best friend's house, and she was telling us that she talked to Sam afterwards, and he said that the security guard advised him to use his shoulder to bust open the door.
Really? Okay, if that's what he says, hey, the truth don't need no company, man. You know, if that's what he said, that's what it is for him. My cameras and my guide say I was sitting at the front desk and advised him not to go upstairs. I know he lied. He know he lied. But why doesn't the system say, well, did anybody ever ask him, why did you lie on the guard? That was that we have proof to say that he, you know, I don't know if anybody talked to him that way. I don't know why they don't talk to him that way. I certainly would talk to him that way, because if I applied my street knowledge to it, I can get to him. Say, what the f*** you talking about, man? You know, f***ing well I wouldn't. I can go to him like that.
Get him, old man.
They're going to arrest me later. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. And Brian Enton joins me live now from Philadelphia. Two things are unbelievable: that you were able to track down all these people and get those incredible interviews, and what they actually said. Let's just start with that building management security guard. 13 years later, Brian, he seems crystal clear in his memory of what happened.
He is, and he's very emotional, Ashley. I mean, he almost really broke down at one point. He's disturbed by the whole thing, and he's upset that he wasn't believed. And he's just another person who has told us that they don't feel that this was properly investigated.
So, I'm just gobsmacked by the interview, because at first I thought maybe the
Did she just say gobsmacked?
only inconsistency was the story that Sam goes to the front door of the apartment I shared with my...
Go ahead.
No, I just asked if she used the word gobsmacked in her commentary on this.
Oh.
She just said gobsmacked. I haven't heard that word in a little while. It cracked me up.
That's Ashley for you. Miss, I'm coming to YouTube to join the rest of y'all, because y'all got something good going on here.
Mm-hmm.
My fiance, and the
Bring it,
building
Ashley.
security guard accompanied me when I broke down the door. Clearly that was a lie, according to the guard. He said, I never was there. I told him not to do that. But also the fact that he said the guard told him to use his shoulder, and that he did it twice, according to Ellen's friend. He said, just not true. I didn't do that.
Yeah, and that was Ellen's friend Allison, who said that when she talked to Sam, Sam said that he used the shoulder to push the door in. And when we asked the guard about it, he almost like laughed. He's like, no, I would never say that. I never told him to push the door in. I never left the concierge desk in the lobby of the condo. And he says he told the police that. He says he told the police that early on.
I just can't understand how that wouldn't be something that factors into this suicide reclassification. It's confounding. Thanks for watching.
Now, isn't that insane that he told police all of that in the beginning and he wasn't believed? Why would they not believe him?
Well, I can give you one reason.
I can as well. But Dolphin, I think are you thinking the same thing?
Yeah.
That's insane. But I love the way he said he would, bring his street knowledge to the game if he needed
Yeah.
to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hear you. I'm right there with you. Don't bring my street cred out.
That's crazy.
It's I just can't, why? We always wonder why these things happen. Bad investigations and you just don't want nobody to know, or is it a complete cover up, or both, and sometimes it's one or the other, and sometimes it's both. I think in this case it feels more like a cover up, especially when they initially suicide, then changed to homicide. Oh, that makes
Well, it was initially homicide, then changed to suicide.
yeah, that's what I mean. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I had it backwards.
Refresh my memory again. Who was he related to? Like, what kind of ties did he have in law enforcement, or was it a
It was an
judge or something?
uncle. Let me see if I can Google it real quick. Let's see, Sam. Okay, here we go. Let me see if I can pull it up on the computer. I just pulled it up on my phone.
Okay,
I
so
don't know why I did that. I should have done it on the PC. Okay, right here. Sorry. There we go. Let me pull it up right here. Okay. Now I'll share the screen and we'll take a look at what this says. Okay. Judge tied to Ellen Greenberg's fiance took items from her suicide scene before police search. Excuse
you
me?
are joking.
Wow. Okay.
What, a judge did this?
Yes, okay, I guess it's just a news clip and not an actual article, so let me go back up here.
Oh.
Okay, let's see.
Are you sure this isn't in Kentucky or Indiana?
There's corruption like that all over the place, Joe.
Yep.
As long as you've got some relatives or some sort of tie, it doesn't matter where you are. That kind of stuff happens.
Very curious, because I don't know
can we
who
hear it?
the number of people that appear in the video are, whether they were residents or
Yeah, I can hear it. It's a
visitors
little low.
or,
But we're never going to know because the police will close the investigation.
and they won't let us see the, I wanted like a 48-hour window of people coming and going in the building. I asked for a guest list. I didn't get that. They shouldn't be withholding this information from us.
If there was somebody walking around the hall that wasn't supposed to be there or was carrying on suspiciously, how come the police have never investigated and followed up on this? Which is only one part of the investigation that never happened. In fact, the police allowed the apartment to be scrubbed by a post-investigation team. And the police came back 3 days later and had to get a search warrant to even get to the scene.
But that's after the chain of custody was
Right.
broken.
We're talking about a chunk of surveillance which was really a couple of hours. Sandy and I have never seen more than a chunk of surveillance for that day. So we don't know why they're withholding that, and they've withheld other things. They have Ellen's personal things, her pocketbook, and some other things that are personal that have nothing to do with the case that they've never returned to us. They have the judge.
And they're
the judge,
holding on to these things, believing that she committed suicide, but yet they have to still hold on to her personal belongings. Things were removed from the crime scene without our permission. The chain of custody was broken from the very beginning when Jim Schwartzman removed computers, electronics, my daughter's handbag. So there's just a lot of
Also-
moving parts things don't add up, and we still don't have answers.
There's no reason for the police to withhold anything. In the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, suicide is not a crime. There is no crime here. So why are they holding on to my daughter's personal effects if there's no crime and there's nothing they're doing? Because they're not doing anything. The case is closed. As far as the authorities are concerned, the case is closed, and that's what they're trying to do.
I'd like to see my daughter's journal. I would like her Ugg boots. I'd like her glasses. I don't see any reason to withhold these things from us when they insist this is a suicide.
Which is not a crime. I have another problem with this case. I think the police are criminally negligent of not following up on what happened. What is the abusive wounds that Ellen had on her body? To me, this reduces down to if we are right that Ellen did not commit suicide, that this was a homicide, and if we are right that she was abused, that means there's an abuser and a murderer, either in Philadelphia or someplace, that still exists. And the police are not looking for that person or persons. And that's dangerous. Somebody else could really get hurt here. And that scares me. Something that was revealed to me later on after Ellen's passing, maybe 2 years, was that Ellen had approached our good friend, Debbie, about possibly moving to her house and leaving the apartment. And Debbie asked a simple question. Was the fiancé Samuel Goldberg coming with her? And Ellen walked away. The Supreme Court is going to be deciding whether or not Sandy and I have standing. And that's a real big thing. Even getting to do this in the Supreme Court is a big thing. I mean, no one has ever gotten as far in this case as we have. I know it's taken almost 14 years, but it's still a very important case because not only the standing, but also the other part of this case that's very important, I don't know what's going to come up, is the fact that medical examiners are above reproach. You can't challenge their opinions. So if you have a different opinion, which we do, that this was not a suicide, it was a homicide, there's nothing we can do about it except go to our graves with it, which doesn't seem really fair or really giving our daughter justice. She's the victim here. She's not the person who has caused the problem or is the aggressor here. She's a victim in our minds. Now,
Did we lose you, Salty?
Well, yeah,
Not
if
really.
I unmute myself. Yeah, that's crazy to me. You know, of course, something tragic happens, you're going to call a loved one to come over. They're going to come support you, whatever. But to get over there and start removing electronics and items from the home, and you're a
Did the
prominent.
judge like personally do it, or did the judge like
Yes,
order
The
the
judge
what?
personally
so
did it.
the judge personally did it. His name is
What?
Jim Schwartzman. He is a prominent judge there in Philadelphia. And so you call your uncle, right? Okay, maybe they're close. Uncle rushes over and, oh, your girlfriend did this. Oh, let me go ahead and just start removing computers and devices on my, no.
There is no like even fuzzy gray area. Could he have done
Thank
that?
you.
Should he have done that? No, that is an ethical violation
And
to
why
the
would
nth
you,
degree for a judge.
right?
No,
Why would you
no.
even do it?
So that article on Fox News, I put my email in because it said, just like, put your email in. You can see the rest of the article. It says that he said police gave him permission to go in and take her belongings. He denied removing her handbag, but he admitted to removing her computers and cell phones. I
No,
mean,
no,
any
no,
judge and
no,
every
no,
judge
no,
knows
no,
that he shouldn't have done
no.
that.
You
He should have
don't
let the
touch
police take
anything at
her.
a crime scene. A judge
Yeah.
does not. ever
I know.
touch
Why did he
anything at
think
a
that
crime
he
scene.
needed to take them over the
That's what
police?
she's
He
saying.
said
She
he
Yeah, she
wanted to
agrees.
keep things safe. That's crazy.
It is. And for some reason, Dolphin, I can have the article on my phone pulled up. I can see the
Mhm.
whole damn thing, but on the PC, I couldn't. It's weird. But you're right. What she just said is correct about him doing that. But Joe, you're right. We agree with you.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have. But this is what they say. That was his response as to why he did it. That they gave me permission and all this stuff.
There is no valid excuse for that behavior.
None at
None.
all.
He should be disbarred. He should be unjudged, whatever you call it.
And why is he still holding a job at all at this
Yeah,
point?
he should actually be prosecuted. That's
He-
probably
Yeah, he needs to be a part of that suit. I hope that he was in some way, and if he was, that's going to affect whatever. But yeah, that they need a
Oh my
really good.
gosh.
What is it?
Do you know he was elected president judge of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court's Court of Judicial Discipline in 2021? The court responsible for hearing judicial misconduct cases from across the state. You
Oh,
have got to be kidding me.
We got a Judge Gulp 2.0.
Mm-hmm. This is crazy.
These judges,
you can't
abuse
make
of
this stuff
powers,
up.
and I
Wait a
know,
minute.
right?
And get this, he had been a judge on the court in the 2 years prior to his election. He is also a partner and chair of the Ethics and Professional Responsibility Group with the Stevens and Lee Law Firm, according to his professional profile. Oh my goodness. Talk about the fox guarding the hen house. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
You can't make this stuff up. Oh my gosh.
Joe, I just saw your message in back chat, and yes, I've seen that, but I'm leery of using anything of his. But
Okay, fair enough. Fair
yeah,
enough.
yeah. It's a crazy case. We'll see how, we'll keep an eye on the updates as they come down and see how things start to unfold with everything that's happening. And, I feel like at some point he'll probably get charged, especially if they're reclassifying her death now, and they have these reconstructionists on board that's been working for 14 years on all this. Maybe winning the civil suits, I know, is a big step for them, but they still want him prosecuted if he harmed her. If he didn't, somebody damn sure did, because she didn't do all that to herself. I think we've all agreed on that, or can agree on that. Well, that's about it on the update for Ellen Green for this morning. Check here on the right Pokemon FFS. He probably threatened them. Yeah, he probably could have. I'll get your job.
If I'm a police officer, I'm not countermanding a judge's request. But like, hey, he must know what's up, and I don't. So have at it.
No, you're more concerned about being fired because you know what he's doing is not right. And if you say anything, you probably gonna get fired. Look what happened to over there in Delphi when the other guy that tried to run for sheriff went up against what's his name? Look all.
Went up against Liggett, and Liggett was handpicked by Lesenby.
Kind of stuff went down over there. Okay, yeah. So I don't know how many of you have been following the case in the Madeline Soto, Stephon Stearns case.
Oh yeah, I have.
Yeah, me too. I've been covering it since I started streaming. I've got tons of documents from the case. I've got tons of interviews. We've went over a lot of them. My playlist, I got it today. I intend to sit down and really get those better organized because I forget to put the shows into the playlist sometimes. But I do have a playlist for Maddie, Florida versus Stearns. And you can go back and review some of those to take a look back at the old documents. And as he goes to trial this month on the 24th, starts the trial on the CSAM charges. Remember, he had 60 counts of CSAM from what they found on his mobile device, like 1,500 images of Madeline dating back till she was at least 6.5, 7 years old.
But how did they find that? He accidentally factory reset it the day before they confiscated it.
It was no accident.
He did it twice. He actually factory reset twice, and we all know he did it on purpose. And he's got, he gave us his little spill and his little excuse and his little sad voice for all that. But they were still able to recover it on the cloud, thank goodness, because his dumbass had it all backed up to his Google account.
Yeah, and there's no such thing as an accidental factory reset.
No, he
on
was
any device.
And he claimed he was trying, because I've got the interview where he talks about it, and he says he was trying to do an update,
right?
And accidentally hit something. And everybody knows that is not true. Their phone's going to ask you, "Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure?" So, let me pull up.
Sinead, you may wish for him. Sinead, you may wish for him the death penalty, but it may actually be worse for him if he doesn't get the death penalty, and he gets put in the Florida DOC.
Well, I'm in Florida, and I agree, but that's being fought, of course, because it's a DP case. And they don't want that on the table ever in any of these cases. They want it off. And if any state's going to have a big contention over the DP, it's going to happen in Florida. We have had it in place forever. We have new laws for people like Stefan to receive it. He could receive the death penalty on the CSAM, but they're not going for it. They're going for life. They're going for the DP on the murder charge. And I think because of the constitutional arguments in Florida, they decided not to do it with the CSAM, because it's going to be easier to get it with the murder charge. And doing the CSAM trial first is going to help establish aggravating circumstances on that murder. Because we're going to look at some of his documents in a minute about his constitutional rights.
Yeah, Pokemon Florida has no parole for the death penalty, for life. There is no such thing as life without parole, because there is no life with parole. Like Sarah Boone got sentenced to life. She's going to be in prison for life. There's no credit for time served. There's no 25 years to life. Life is life. Yeah. So if you get sentenced to life, you're going to be in prison in Florida for the rest of your natural life.
Yeah. And in Florida, we have used the death penalty probably longer than one of the states that's used it forever. I grew up knowing all about it. Not when I was a little kid, but as I grow up, I've always known about the DP in Florida. And then as I became a teenager, I realized, people have problems with this. And then, all the arguments about that. And I don't try to get into a debate about right or wrong, because I'm in Florida and I accept it. We used to have old Sparky. They'd throw your ass in the chair and strap you down, and then that thing started to malfunction. And they had to quit using it. And it was a big deal when they retired it. It was a huge thing in Florida. So now we do lethal injection. But it's going to be interesting to see what he can get taken off the table when you take a look at the filings that he's got going now. And they're to me, they're ridiculous. And I feel like I am all for the constitutional rights, because it is our Constitution, but damn it, victims have as many rights as defendants. And as long as the defendant's basic rights are maintained, they're good to go. But when you start crossing a line and demanding certain things, because it may make you look bad if you don't get them, I got a problem with that. But we'll get into that in a minute. Let me start off with a little something we're going to take a look at.
Well, and didn't Florida just pass a law that said so you used to have unanimous consent from the penalty phase from the jury for death penalty, but now you only need a 2/3 majority, 8 out of 12?
Yes. No longer do you have to have the majority sign off on the DP in Florida. It just takes 1 or 2 of the jurors and I don't think he will. Now, we've already had one case before his come up where CSAM was involved, and I believe the guy was going to get the death penalty, but they ended up pleading or something, but he was going to take that to the Supreme Court because, put me to death over CSAM. Are you crazy? But So this new law on the CSAM has never been challenged yet. We know it will be, but they're not seeking it on this CSAM. So is that the reason why they don't want that huge fight on their hands when they know they got another one coming up, later in the year? Because in September he goes on trial for the murder charge. And so let's look at this is a quick piece. Let's see, I'm not really sure how long it is. I'm gonna play it on a little bit of a faster speed just because if it gets too much, I'll slow it down because I can't deal with that either. Y'all know that about me by now. This is a little clip when Maddie first went missing. It's Jennifer Soto doing an interview with the Fox 35 local out of Orlando. Little Miss Hannah McKenzie here used to work here, and I miss her, and I wish that she'd come back, but whatever. She can stay in Orlando because she got the Jennifer Soto interview. But we're going to watch a little bit of this to get us started. I'll hit play and let me get the screen up first. If you guys aren't familiar, like I said, you can go back and review some of the shows that we've done. And this lady talking with the black hair is Jennifer Soto, Madeline Soto's mother.
And go ahead and tell us what's going on with Maddie.
Well, Monday morning, we took her to school. We dropped her off close to school, across the street from a church, which is it's right next to the school. She crossed the street and walked to school, what we thought walked to school. My boyfriend who drove her to school drove away at that point. It was seen on video footage that she hung out in the parking lot of the church for a few minutes and then got up and walked towards the school. But she never made it from that walk and that was around 9 a.m. when she got up. She never made it to school after that. It's right next to the school. I don't know why she didn't make it. I don't know if something happened on her walk along the way or if she got taken, but she never made it.
And that was the last anyone's seen of her or heard from her?
Yes. I went to pick her up after school and she wasn't there. So I started driving around, maybe thinking she took a walk. Maybe she decided to walk to my mom's office, which is pretty close to the school as well. I drove around and I didn't see anything. I drove back to the school. The school was closed. I emailed one of her teachers. They confirmed that she was absent all day. At that point is when I called 911 because I realized something was truly wrong.
Have you heard from any of her friends? Has she been active on any social media?
She hasn't been active on social media. None of her chats, none of her games. We did contact all her friends. None of them had seen her Monday or heard from her. Yeah, there's no update.
And I have to ask this, and I know I hate doing it, but is she the type that would run away? Has this happened in the past or anything? Has she ever threatened to run away?
Never. She's never ever mentioned anything like this before. And she did accidentally leave her phone on Monday, which is kind of normal for her. She's got ADHD. They tried tracing her school laptop, but that's off, so it's not pinging to anything.
Jen, what is your fear? I know you mentioned she's on games and stuff. Do you think she could have met somebody and tried to meet up with them?
She's open to us. She's open with us about, if she's got a crush with anyone, and she told us she had a crush on someone at school. And I looked at their messages, nothing was weird. I looked at all of her messages, all of her deleted messages. Nothing seemed weird. It didn't seem like she was talking to anyone. So I don't feel like that's the case. I feel like she may have been taken because this is not like her at all to just disappear and not tell us, not let us know where she's going or who she's with. Yeah.
What are you getting from law enforcement? Are they actively searching for her? What happens now? Especially that she doesn't have her phone with her.
So as far as I know, they're conducting a search around the school. Behind the school, there's a Shingle Creek. There's a wooded path area that you could walk. It's a hiking path. They are going back there with their canine dogs. They've taken a piece of her clothing to see if they can trace her scent. They're also taking their own vehicles. I'm not sure what type of vehicles, but they're going into the woods to search for her. But I don't feel like that's going to find anything right now. We've had people all day on that trail sending us photos to see if anything there looks familiar and like her personal belongings, and nothing is hers. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure where to go from here. I'm just contacting the news, to get the word out, to get some help, because I'm desperate. I'm a wreck right now.
So you think that she's been taken against her will?
I do think so, yes.
As a mom, what's your mother's intuition telling you right now?
I'm trying to hope for the best, but I'm scared for her. I want her to be okay, and I want her to be safe. I don't want her to come back harmed. I just want her back, whatever that means. I just want her back.
Are you getting any updates from law enforcement? I mean, yes, they're searching that small area, but have they gotten any hits on any scent or anything like that?
They haven't let me know anything. They haven't updated me since I spoke to them this morning. I've contacted them to get some information or to give them some leads, but I've heard nothing back.
And Jen, there's no way that she, just being, a teenager, was like, maybe had a fight with you or an argument with you and was like, you know what, I'm going to go hang out at so-and-so's house and teach her a lesson. Could that be a scenario?
I don't believe so. We actually haven't gotten into a fight in like a few weeks, or arguments or anything like that. If anything, on Sunday, she celebrated her 13th birthday with my entire family, and she had the best day. She was so happy. She showed us all her gifts. She's just a happy girl, and she showed it on Sunday night when she went to bed. She was so happy. So, she had the best day. I just, there was no moment in that evening from when she got home from the party that she had her phone or had the laptop. She went straight to getting ready and went to bed. So I know she didn't have any conversations with anyone. She didn't make plans with anyone. I didn't see any of that.
So she's spent the whole Sunday celebrating her 13th birthday. Was her 13th birthday on that Sunday, or that was just like the time you guys were celebrating?
That was the time we were celebrating. Her birthday was on Thursday, the 22nd.
Okay,
She just turned 13.
But that's just so heartbreaking to be celebrating her 13th birthday, and then the very next day, that's
gone.
the last you've seen of her.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you go now? Are you going to go out there and search or look, or what is are you sticking by the phone? Are you, what are you doing?
I'm staying at home, staying by the phone, hoping she just appears. I know my entire family is out looking. They've all spread a bunch of flyers. I've had people contact me that they've gone to the international airport to spread flyers, to Amtrak, to Greyhound, just any way that if someone's taken her and they're trying to take her, just to show her face, just to make sure, she's not being taken against her will.
And you mentioned ADHD. Was there anything else maybe mentally going on, or that you knew of?
She does suffer from anxiety, and once upon a time she was diagnosed with autism. We had her what's the word?
Brained, maybe?
Reevaluated.
Okay.
We had her reevaluated a few months ago, actually, and they told us no, she didn't have autism, but she did have some autistic traits. She did have ADHD, some autistic traits, but not autism. So I'm not sure where to leave with that, because one doctor said she did and one doctor saying she doesn't, and I don't know. She's just in the middle, I guess, because she does have some tendencies, but socially she's pretty great. So I'm not sure.
And with the video that you were able to see whenever your boyfriend dropped her off, where was that? Which video? Was it a surveillance camera?
It was a surveillance camera from the church, Peace Church, right next to Hunters Creek Middle School.
And do you have that video?
I don't have that. They didn't show me. They wouldn't show me. It was actually, my sister was the one at location, and they were letting her know what they saw on camera.
Okay.
But they didn't show it to any of us.
Got it. Okay. Jen, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Please, if you have any information, contact me, contact law enforcement. Any information helps. Maddie, if you see this, please come home. Please be safe. I love you very much. If you have my Maddie, please just let her come home. We just want her home.
Well, that was one of the interviews. She did multiple interviews. And in fact, one of them was brought up in one of the documents that I have that I think law enforcement's going to be using. Is something she said. Because her story kept changing from, we took her to school, he took her to school. I took her to school. Right. Yeah. So and those statements were made during the Fox Orlando News interviews there. And yes, Sinead, I usually avoid these cases too, but the reason I follow Maddie's case is because the same day Sebastian Rogers and Madeline Soto disappeared. And I followed both cases. And so finally having Stefan
Yeah.
arrested, for her murder and what he did, finding out what all he did to her, I'm going to see it through, and I want to see that guy go down and get what he absolutely deserves. But I don't generally cover horrific children's cases because they are a lot. They are. But this one, and all the stuff in Florida gives us a lot of discovery. We just got so much with this case, and then we all began to see the statements coming out that Jennifer herself was making, all the whining that Stefan was doing. It was crazy. And yeah, I've got we'll have to do a refresher show before the trial kicks off, because I do have a ton of documents, and I've went through a lot of them, but there's a lot of them I still haven't even had a chance to go through, but there's a lot. I wanted to look at this hang on, let me pull this up.
While you're pulling that up, let me just
Go
say
ahead.
something before I
You go
forget.
right ahead.
The one thing too that I just thought about when she was going through this story again is, did they ever say, so okay, she said that Maddie was seen on that church camera,
Right.
okay, in the parking lot. So I want to know, did they ever really see somebody on that camera in her clothes, right? The green hoodie or whatever.
Yeah, so here's
That
what
was
we've
one
seen it.
thing. Hold on, let me finish. That was
Okay.
one thing. And then the second thing is, I want to know, when his car, supposedly pulled up to drop her off there, did somebody else get out of that car? And when that car drove off, was somebody else standing there? Because if somebody else was standing there in that green hoodie, that means this heifer is involved in this, setting
Well,
up that scene. She was hiding in the car or whatever.
that's a speculation, but he
Mhm.
actually dropped her off across the street from the Peace Church on the sidewalk. So
Mhm.
on the right-hand side of the Peace Church is on the left-hand side. He dropped her off on the right-hand side of the highway. She would have had to cross the highway to enter the Peace Church parking lot, which is what he claims that she did in the court documents.
So it
Now,
was
as far
out of
as
view
out
of
of
their
view.
cameras?
Yes.
Okay.
So the video, though, that Jennifer's referring to, and I always said the cops must have let them believe what they wanted to believe, because they show, I have video footage of it where the cops review that footage. It's dark. Because it's still dark outside. It's grainy. You see it's a car. You see what appears to be a female get out with a backpack, but that's all you can tell. You really can't tell the clothing or the face, nothing, because it's not a close-up shot. It's a distance away.
So you can't even tell what the car was?
No. And then when
And he left his phone at home.
Right, and the authorities actually show that video to Jennifer's sister.
Right.
And it's not Matt.
Okay.
It was a girl, but it was not Madeline Soto. That up situation, because he
Mhm.
literally dropped her off across the street by the sidewalk, and then she walked across to the Peace Church parking lot, and all that's brought up in the court documents that we have. That first doc drop I got is almost 1,000 pages long, and boy, we went through that thing. And I've got several more that, God, I got interviews with Jennifer, with Stearns, the police interrogations, interviews with the parents. Oh my God, these people, they're all a little wacko. Good
Yeah.
morning, Firefly. How are you? Welcome in. Okay, so let me show you something else real quick. If you guys, anytime you have any questions or anything, any comments, throw it in the chat, and we'll be glad to try to get them answered. And not because having a conversation about all this is what we're here for.
These cases are rough. These cases are tough. Like, I have this internal debate with myself on whether or not I want to update you all on the case in Lafayette with the Haitian immigrant that drowned his toddler in the bucket of laundry detergent. I mean, it's just such a tough case.
Well, you brought me into that case, so I would like to know the update of the guy's court status, because
yeah,
that
his
was
trial
horrific.
got rescheduled for like May. So there's going to be
Did
like
it?
a pretrial hearing in April, and then the actual trial is scheduled to begin in May. I can't imagine him not getting to some kind of a plea agreement and getting deported, or maybe even spending time in Indiana prison for the rest of his life. But yeah, his trial got delayed till May.
Yeah.
It's just so horrible.
They are horrible. I don't normally, sometimes we don't realize a case we're about to start covering is going to end up the way it does, and I want justice for Maddie, but there was so much when things began to go crazy over in the Riley Strain case, because he was still missing when Maddie and Sebastian went missing.
Yeah.
And all that conspiracy stuff. And then you had the kid out of Texas, Caleb Harris, right? All that. And then you had these two kids. And now we see how Sebastian's case has turned out. I was just, I saw that people tried to start that with Maddie's. In fact, T-Rev popped into my chat, what was it, the other day, out of the blue, and I'm like, get out of here. Like, go away. Because you brought on fake phone callers, and I've made a video and proved it, where your friend called to pretend to know Stefan Stearns and blah, 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 blah. Don't come into these children's cases that are already so horrific, they're hard to talk about, and bring in fake stuff. That's why y'all need to be careful about who you ask for a receipt, or pay attention to what they're telling you. And I don't know if I could trust a caller calling in and randomly telling me anything. How can I possibly vet that? You know what I mean? It's bothersome. That's my rant.
It is. And so I've been talking with members of Lori and Charles family. Damn it, not Chad. Screw him. Lori and Charles family, who are content creators in their own right and have channels that are way bigger than mine. And we're talking about doing some kind of a collab, but on my channel, I've got to bring you guys along with me. Like, they can't just go off on their theories about where they're at right now on how they feel about Chad and Lori and Charles's death. Like, we've got to start at the beginning, and we got to bring you guys along. But I mean, they are credentialed and they're real people, but we got to bring everybody along. You know what I mean? Like, we can't just like dive right into the deep end of the pool. Does that make sense?
Most definitely. And yes, Dolphin's right. They have video. Look, they have a video of him pulling into the parking garage of the hotel and removing this child from the front seat, unalived already, and into the trunk of the car. They have a video of him doing that. They have video.
Yeah, that's not in dispute. That is not disputed.
I'm just
at
looking
all.
I'm reading, not disputed. I'm just looking at comments. And they have video of him throwing away her backpack and laptop and all that, and the busted up tire all into the disposal at the apartment complex. They have video and eyewitness of him coming through the front gate with her strapped in the seatbelt with her head slumped completely over. They have him tracked by video footage surveillance across town, leaving that apartment complex and driving all the way out to where she was found. There's so much overwhelming evidence, this guy, against him. And yes, she did get some sort of immunity deal. I've put a lot of thought and time into evaluating Miss Jennifer, and I don't have time to go into the way I feel about her right now. We all feel some kind of way, right? We all feel some kind of way about her. In the end, was she one of those naive women, will do anything to keep a man, will avoid every red flag flapped in front of her face, and was so needy herself and detached from her own child that she just didn't care? Or did she know everything that was going on and was a full participant? Who knows? Either way, she's a sorry ass mom. All right.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. That's our story, by God. Okay. This is a little piece that I wanted to play before we get into the document.
35 News at 5.
We are now confident that she is dead.
The search for 13-year-old Maddie Soto takes a devastating turn as the prime suspect sits behind bars.
Stefan, where's Maddie? Did you hurt her?
Fox 35 was the only station there today when Stefan Stearns was transferred to the Osceola County Jail.
Where was Maddie last seen? Why aren't you helping her mother and her family?
The sheriff now believes Maddie was never dropped off at school on Monday.
We believe she was already dead at that time.
Tonight, Fox 35 is live with team coverage on the search for Maddie Soto's body.
We begin with some breaking news at this hour. That search has law enforcement walking through the woods near St. Cloud at this hour. This is the view from Skyfox, flying high over the scene on Knowltree Road near Old Hickory Road.
Right now, the sheriff thinks the key to finding Maddie's body is by talking to people who saw this car on Monday that was in the area where they're searching now. Thanks for joining us. I'm Hannah McKenzie.
And I'm John Brown. Detectives believe Maddie Soto's body was in the car
when
Stefan Stearns was driving around. And now they need.
Yeah.
Isn't that how they got the tip where they found Maddie, was by asking people to remember seeing that car, and somebody saw that car and reported seeing it out there?
Yeah, but where they're searching at right now, this was before she was found. And notice they were saying they were looking, this particular search area was around Knowltree Road. Well, turns out when you're going through the documents, Jen had a friend who lived out this direction. And the only way he may have known about the entire area was because he went out there once with Jen. And I think because they were trying to figure out where would he have taken her. They were looking at a particular hiking trail lake that Jen mentioned, different things. Now, about the guy that saw him, they came out and asked, for the public's help in returning information about this white car and this suspect. And yes, so when he drove Maddie out to the location, I don't feel like he intended to put her where he put her. I don't think he had a choice, because the direction he was headed, if he'd have kept going, he would have made a curve around to where some lakes were with thick, heavily wooded, swampy Florida. Right?
Even directly west of where she was found, there's something that was called Alligator Lake. So if he had just turned left off of that road and gone west, he'd have been to Alligator Lake in no time.
Yeah, and that was closer to where the hiking area was that Jen told them about. But when apparently he had a blowout, so he had to pull over. That's when he placed Maddie where he placed her. A person did pass by and made eye contact with Stearns while Stearns was changing that tire. So the person called and reported that incident. They go. And so while the press conference was happening, they had Stefan and Jen in separate interrogation rooms, and we have those videos. Stefan was being arrested while the press conference was being played. His dad even talks about that in his interview, about that was kind of dirty or a little bit or whatever. They thought they were going to participate in the press conference, right? To be the hurting parents, help us find our daughter. But instead they were going for Stefan to be arrested and then they were going to announce that during that press conference. Isn't that crazy how they did that?
Need your help. All right, take a good look once again. Here's the car. It's a silver 2010 Lincoln. Stearns was seen driving it in.
Notice the donut already on there on the left side here, on the right left rear. That's the tire that blew out. There was tire tread left at the scene. He had the tire that blew out and big chunks of tread thrown in the trunk. We have photos of that. And then he threw all of that into the trash compactor at the apartment complex when he got back. And they have all that. They have the tire and all. I know.
Who throws a tire into a trash compactor?
I know.
I mean,
And they have it, and they can match. I love my tire tread stuff. They can match that tire from that compactor where he threw everything away to the chunks found at the crime scene to know that's the same tire. And you got an eyewitness that placed you out there. We also have his statements in our doc drops. Lord, he might go down as one. What he did was completely disgusting and horrible, but he may be one of the dumbest criminals alive. Thank God it took him too many years to get caught. And unfortunately, it took unaliving this child for him to get caught at what he was doing. That's really sad. I'm taking a bathroom break while this plays. If it will play, hold on. I took a risk on stopping it.
2 areas between 1 and 2:30 p.m. near St. Cloud in Osceola County. All right, check out the map of the locations here. Reports show that he was on 192 and Old Hickory Tree Road and Knowltree Road and Old Hickory Road. They believe that he had a flat tire somewhere around there and was changing it in that area. Fox 35's Manny Martinez is in the alert center with a look at the search today. Manny.
John, this video that you're about to see showing the search, a massive law enforcement present between multiple agencies. It is something to look at because you see just how thick some of that brush is that investigators are combing through. So let's show you from Sky Fox one more time. And we've gotten confirmation just within the past 20 minutes, and this video is that fresh as well, that it is the city of St. Cloud, as well as Kissimmee, the Orange County Sheriff's Office, and the Osceola County Sheriff's Office. They are the 4 agencies that were out there investigating. They are looking for clues, looking for the body of 13-year-old Madeline Soto, and then they tell us that they will also be doing this until they find her body for the remainder of the weekend. So the St. Cloud Police Department posting online this information in regards to the prime suspect in this case, that is Stefan Stearns, saying the Kissimmee Police Department is looking for anyone who may have doorbell or security camera video footage from February 26th of Stefan Stearns driving his silver Lincoln MKZ. That's that car that we have shown you now multiple times with a license plate. IYLL82, that being in the area of US 192, Knowltree Road, Hickory Tree, and Old Tree in St. Cloud. And that is that area where we saw that big law enforcement presence, that just being 15, 20 minutes ago, John and Hannah. So we will stay on top of what they have found, if they have found anything, and we'll bring you any updates as we get them.
All right, thanks a lot, Manny. And Fox 35's Matt Trezza joins us live from the Orange County Sheriff's Office. So, Matt, walk us through what happened leading investigators to this search.
Yeah, well, up till this point, Orange County Sheriff's deputies have been leading the search for Maddie Soto. Now they say it's a homicide investigation, and Sheriff John Mina sadly announcing that he is confident that Maddie is dead.
Last night, detectives from the Kissimmee Police Department met with Madeline's mother, and they had to tell her the very devastating news that although we have not found Madeline, we are now confident that she is dead.
Sheriff John Mina described the grisly timeline as best he could, saying deputies have proof of suspect Stefan Stearns trying to cover his tracks.
We have video evidence that shows Stefan Stearns discarding items in a dumpster in that apartment complex in Kissimmee at 7:35 on Monday, February 26. Detectives later recovered Madeline's backpack and her school-issued laptop from that dumpster. At 8:19, we have evidence that shows Stefan Stearns returning to the complex, and Madeline was visible in that vehicle. We believe she was already dead at that time.
They say their top priority is still finding Maddie. Our cameras were rolling this morning as deputies transferred Stefan Stearns to the Osceola County Jail.
Where was Maddie last seen? Why aren't you helping her mother and her family? This is a little girl. Help them find Maddie. Where is Maddie?
And the sheriff thinks that answer will be found in Kissimmee, which is why Orange County is now turning over their investigation to Kissimmee Police.
And of course, the Orange County Sheriff's Office, all of our support personnel will be available and will still be assisting in this investigation.
Now, jail officials say Stearns will face a judge tomorrow morning, and meanwhile, they're asking anybody with any information that may lead to the recovery of Maddie to please give the Orange County Sheriff's Office or Crime Line a call. We're live in Orlando. Matt Trezza, Fox 35 News.
Thanks, Matt.
It's a horrific case, you know, and one of the biggest takeaways I want people to walk away with after watching the stream about what happened to Madeline Soto is for women and men, watch for the red flags. Don't be so caught up in your own world that you will do whatever it takes to keep somebody there. Because I don't understand that behavior, because I'm not like that, but I know women who are, and men. Got to have a partner at all times. I'm just not that.
That's
You know,
ridiculous.
it is ridiculous. But to ignore what could be happening to your own child because of your selfishness is ridiculous. You've got to learn to watch those red flags. No man in the world is worth keeping around who's harming your child. And don't talk yourself into turning the other way. And we have an interview, and I'll get all this together so we can get a review done. But her ex, he was a boyfriend. They lived together before Stefan, and he had a daughter, and then of course she had Maddie. I think his daughter was a year to two at the most older than
Her
Maddie.
ex-husband.
It was her ex-husband. You're right. And he talked about even when they were together, Jen already had a lot of problems. Like she wouldn't be able to deal with the girls because they both each had a girl. He was working and going to school, trying to better himself to provide for the family. She would call him and say things like, well, I need you to come home. I can't deal with the kids. I mean, you're a mother, honey. The man is busy working and going to school. Deal with the kids, you know. And she would check out. Like he would come home, and the minute he got home, she checked out, go to her room. Got to take the, like Forrest said, she's got to go swallow those meds, and Dolphin got to have that vape. So, you know, this woman's had emotional issues that go way back, but none of that excuses you. I don't think she bonded well with Maddie when Maddie was little. And I think maybe that some of that played a part in who knows what all played a part in what she did and didn't know. I don't know. Don't you think if you put yourself in her shoes, it would be so difficult not to be aware.
She sent her daughter to sleep with this man.
Exactly.
Alone. Without her. Yeah.
And she thought that was okay. You know, in the beginning, she said that, you know, she never allowed him alone with Maddie, and none of that was allowed, and done all this stuff. But they began to trust him. He and Maddie bonded. She never thought anything about it. Once they wanted their sleepovers, she just allowed it. And then it moved into, you know, Jen's got to get that good night's sleep that we all wish we could get. So go take my child and y'all go into another room. And that, like, no, lady, no one in their right damn mind does that unless they know for a fact something bad is happening or they just don't care.
Yeah, I mean, if I were one of the police,
You know,
that
I'm focusing on
interviewed her-
women right now. That subject. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I was
you
just
go
going
right
to
ahead.
say, if I were one of the police who was interviewing her, when she said that about, oh, at first, you know, she, you know, didn't leave them alone and or whatever, you know, she was very mindful, you know, about Maddie being around him or just anybody, right? I would have just been like, knowing that this child had been abused since the age of 7, right?
Yep.
And she's making it seem like this is just a new thing, right? Within the past, you know, year or whatever. I was just like, so, oh, okay, so does that mean you were there, you know,
Right.
watching when all of these other events happened? Because, you know, you never left her alone, right?
Exactly.
Right? So, yeah.
She contradicts herself so much in those
Keep
interviews.
track of the lies.
Yeah, a lot of us, when we were covering the case, when I was doing the document drops as they were coming down, man, just would get so frustrated reading that stuff, you know? And I was trying to be super sensitive to the wording and the language in the document and be protective of Maddie. But when it came to reading the stuff that Jennifer would say and do, I was like, holy. And then and then that one doc drop we have of his mother, Stefan Stern's mother,
Oh, yeah.
when the police are like literally watching her home
Hmm.
or are arriving, they see her run out of her home screaming into the wood toward the woods in the dead of night, screaming out, Maddie, Maddie, being all dramatic. Who runs out of their house at 11:30 at night screaming Maddie's name to the darkness? And the police happened to witness that.
Right.
She said that she went into Stefan's room to clean the room because he was a nasty little pig.
Hmm.
And dad was already in Orlando because Maddie was missing. Mom goes into Stefan's room and finds the half torso sex doll. And at first, her first thought was it could have been Maddie. The doll could have been Maddie. And then that's what prompted her to run outside screaming Maddie. Like, what? And she tells the cops all this when they get there or when they, present themselves to her. She's like, oh, I just found a half torso in my son's room and a sex doll. And like,
So I
well,
guess she's on medication too. Everyone in this case is medicated.
every one of them.
You know.
Yeah. And, her saying that Maddie was going to the doctor and, they were just trying to determine if she was on the spectrum or not. The child had all these issues presenting because of what she was dealing with from Stefan.
Right.
Of course, she's going to start developing behavioral issues and different things throughout her life as the abuse continued. And now she's just putting all the blame on her daughter. Well, what's wrong with you? You act weird. Let's go find out. Oh, you have ADHD. Oh, you're on the spectrum. Stop. I mean, it's crazy. But I wanted to pull up this and let y'all see what this clown is up to. Like I said, I'm down completely for a defendant's rights in every single case. I'm talking about your basic rights. But some of this stuff is getting a little ridiculous. You shouldn't have done what you did or put yourself in a position to put yourself near where something bad happened that you now got to defend yourself against and then come out with some crazy talk, because then you make yourself look more guilty. And that's across the board how I feel about these cases right now. Okay. This is a motion in limine that was filed from the state of Florida versus Stefan Stearns. Okay. Comes now the defendant, Stefan Stearns, by and through the undersigned attorney pursuant to his right of due process as guaranteed by the 5th and 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution, as well as by Article 1, Section 9 of the Florida Constitution, by and through undersigned attorney, files this motion to prohibit reference during trial testimony to the victim's murder or to the murder scene. So,
Wait, this is just during his CSAM trial?
when I read that, I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, no, this one is the murder trial.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
This one came down from the murder trial docket. There's nothing really in the CSAM docket because I check it often too, and because there's so much overwhelming evidence. It's just basically the state turning over evidence to the defense, and just a couple of pretrial hearings. That was it. There's like hardly anything filed in that case. But this motion in limine is for the murder case. So yes, they do not want any reference during trial testimony to the victim's murder or murder scene. So nobody can say those those two phrases during testimony. So what are you supposed to say? The defense requests that the word homicide be used instead of murder. When it comes to witness, particularly law enforcement testimony. So they want to make sure law enforcement is using the word homicide versus the word murder. Like, do you really think the word alone is going to impact the jury that much?
I don't.
Right? How much do our words matter? As grounds in support of his motion, the defendant would show the court as follows. Mr. Stearns is charged by indictment with first-degree murder. The state filed a notice of intent to seek the death penalty on June 7th of 2024. The court's duty to search for constitutional error with painstaking care is never more exacting than it is in a capital case. We are watching another big capital case, aren't we? In a different state, though. Berger versus Kemp is the one they cite here. By this point, it is well established that heightened standards of due process apply to imposition of the death penalty due to the severity, uniqueness, and finality of that sanction. The defense objects to any witness reference to murder or the murder scene. The proper terminology that ought to be used instead is homicide. As Florida's 2nd DCA has noted, in common parlance, homicide means a killing of a human being through human agency. Well, what's the definition of murder? What? In common parlance, homicide means a killing of a human being through human agency. The legal meaning. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think where they're trying to go here, and I'm gonna, I think where they're trying to go here is homicide is like murder light. Murder is heavier, and so they don't want, I guess, every law enforcement officer coming up and saying, well, yeah, when he murdered her,
Right.
or whatever,
When the murder occurred,
then the
or
jury, is like, oh.
Okay, I'm not a lawyer, but I stayed in a Holiday Inn Express last night. Not really, but
that's my line.
the Florida statute for first-degree murder is Florida Statute Section 782.04(1)(a). The statute defines first-degree murder as the unlawful killing of a person, premeditated, or felony, or unlawful distribution of a dangerous controlled substance like cocaine or fentanyl. So it's defined in Florida State Code. The word murder is used in Florida State Code. So
right,
yeah,
but
he has no legal standing in this. There's no legal standing. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but it's only going to be used at the very beginning of the trial where they say, oh, here are the charges, and then you forget about it, and you go on for weeks or whatever. I get it. They don't want to sit there.
I understand what they're doing
it
too,
because it could prejudice the jury. And the jury's like, well, fuck him,
You
he's a
can't
murderer.
prejudice a jury.
Like,
You can't prejudice a jury when something is specified in state law. That's not prejudicial.
No. I understand what that's a whole, but that law is applying to, like, I know it's used, right? I mean, I totally agree with you and get what you're saying, but what we're saying is from the defense approach,
right?
The word homicide, like she said, is a lighter feel than the word murder. And if you continue to say the word murder scene, the day the murder occurred, hours after the murder, if you continue to use the word murder, it would prejudice the jury more than hearing the word homicide would.
It's
And
like
as ridiculous as it may be,
subliminal
exactly,
messages,
it's a subliminal message.
That's why people say assault instead of rape. Like assault is light. Lighter.
Yes.
What it is, but it's lighter. So
we may not agree with what
right.
This defense filing says, but we're trying to explain. I don't know yet. He hasn't decided. So we'll have to see. This is what I mean by, are they getting a little ridiculous with crossing the line on their constitutional rights? Now you want to come in and say what words can and can't be used. It's one thing to have your right to be in a county jail pretrial versus a prison, your right to wear your suit to court versus your prison issued or county issued orange, your right to a special diet if you are on one, whether it's vegan, overweight, keto, grain free, I don't give a fuck, whatever, all of that. Speedy trial is met if you want one, fair trial, effective counsel, all your basic constitutional rights should be granted across the board. But to come here and say, well, you can't say murder, you got to say homicide. It's like, what? I think John Hancock and all them might want to smack you around a little bit. The hell y'all talking about? Sorry. Okay, where was I? As Florida's second DCA has noted, in common parlance, homicide means, oh, I read that part. It got me confused of where I was. The legal term for killing a human being, whether lawfully or unlawfully, is homicide. There is no crime of homicide. The existence of legal categories and excusable homicide and justifiable homicide makes clear that the term homicide does not denote criminality. Did you get that?
Yeah, no, that's
Just
that,
no,
that
no,
goes
no.
to that goes to
Excusable.
cause that goes to cause and manner of death. So the cause of death is the particular injury that she sustained, which I believe she was strangled, if I remember right. And
Yes.
but then manner of death is either suicide, homicide, natural causes, like 5 different things. It could be undetermined. So that's a
I think he's going to say her death was not meant to. It was not intentional. It was accidental.
okay. That's still homicide.
I know. I understand that. I'm not arguing the term.
Okay.
I'm not
I
arguing.
get you.
I'm talking
No,
about
I see where
excusable homicide and justifiable
Gotcha.
homicide and all these other
accidental.
Yes.
Like Sarah Boone. It
Yeah,
totally
no
wasn't
different than-
intentional. I didn't mean to.
No, I mean, I still wonder. Look, this dude, in the latest interview with one of Maddie's friends, law enforcement's heavily throughout the documents as they were coming down, law enforcement really leaned into, could this child have been pregnant? And we still don't know. And one of her friends voluntarily told law enforcement that they asked her, had Maddie appeared sick lately or anything like that, anything different. The only thing that child could think of to say was she had noticed that lately, over the past few weeks, Maddie had been wearing baggier clothing than usual. That she loved her hoodies, but for some reason they were bigger now. As sick as this is about to sound, yeah, this is going to sound extremely sick, but that man, whatever, he's not a man. That monster really cared for that child in his sick, disgusting way. I don't think he would have ever harmed her unless he had to or did it accidentally. Did he have to because she was pregnant? Did he have to because she was getting too old and was absolutely going to tell on them? Did mom come in and do it? I don't know, but are they going to go with some sort of, what led up to the murder, right? That particular night, what triggered it? Did she wake up? Did she fight back? All these things are going to come into play from the defense point. I don't know how the prosecution is going to explain it yet, other than strangling. You know what I mean? What led to that besides just, did she wake up? Because a lot of the videos they have on his phone, it appeared the child was sleeping during the assaults. She was not awake for every single assault. As she got older, I think he had to drug her. Because, of course, as she got older, she's going to realize, wait, what you're doing to me is not fun, it is not comfortable, and it is not right. So, at some point, I think that's when he began to drug her and knock her out. So
I would not be surprised in the least. Firefly, I'm not sure how Florida's state law works, but most of them nowadays do consider a fetus as an additional homicide if the fetus's mother is killed. Like, I just did the one on Raymond Childs III in Indianapolis, where he shot and killed five people in his house, his 5 family members, and his brother's girlfriend was pregnant. So he did get charged and convicted for a 6th charge of murder. So he's going to get sentenced, I think tomorrow, actually. I think February 7th was his sentencing date. But yes, that 6th count was there because of the unborn fetus in the mother's womb.
A lot of times that is the case, and it's been a big debate here. She's in Florida here too, and we've looked at that, trying to figure that out. Why is there not a 2nd charge? We don't know yet. Right. We don't know if they're just keeping that under wraps for whatever reason, if they've decided not to seek a charge for that yet, or even if she was. We don't know if Maddie was or wasn't pregnant yet. We don't have a clue. It'd be interesting to find out, because you can tell from the interviews they're conducting, they are heavily looking into that possibility. I don't know if there was, communications on the phones. There was some communication, like a text between Maddie and Stefan. People were saying it was about the little fake pets they take care of or whatever.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, about look at this mommy and daddy tag thingy. Could we get this? And people were like, oh my God, does that mean she thought she was pregnant in a relationship with Stefan and all this stuff? I have no clue. Haven't, there's been nothing in the documents that says Maddie was pregnant, but you can certainly tell from the line of questioning the investigators were doing that was an avenue they did investigate. So I don't know. Yes, the state's claim is murder, but that I don't mean that it wasn't murder. I'm wondering what that particular night caused it. Like, there's no justification for it. Don't get me wrong. I got a true crime brain. It doesn't just go to, oh my God, they're guilty, just let's end the story. Now, I need to figure a lot of things out in my head. It helps me understand other defendants and other cases. Yeah, I don't know. Something was going on that week. And there was something that happened on that Saturday. Stefan's dad talks about it that made Stefan was at home in Northport with him. Something happened that day that triggered Stefan. Stefan kind of lost his shit that day. The next thing you know, the next day he's headed right back over to Orlando. He shows up 15 minutes after Maddie gets home from her birthday party. The next morning, the child is gone. What happened that weekend? What triggered it? Why was Maddie at her grandma's for the most of the week? Why wasn't Jennifer at her own daughter's birthday party that week? What went on? Something triggered something that triggered the event that happened that night. And then thankfully his dumbass was too stupid to know what to do, and it was all caught on camera.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they have it. We haven't seen it anywhere in the documents. What we don't know is how Stefan got her from the apartment to the car. Yeah, the Tamagotchis, Forrest, that's it. He loved those little damn things. I've got all his Reddit posts. I got where he scolds a woman for being nervous to let her daughter around her husband because things happened to her when she was growing up by her own father, and she didn't know how to handle her feelings on that. He tells her it's all in her head. Men go through this, and knowing what we now know about this man, I was like, he had the nerve to go on and tell some woman that. Get over it. That's your own feelings. Allow him around your daughter. At least she was trying to, balance and weigh her feelings on it and looking for some advice. And then you got a molester coming in, commenting, telling you something you should not be doing, and you had to be careful where y'all get your advice. Oh my goodness. They also had one called, they wanted to modify jury instructions regarding burden of proof. I'll take a quick look at that for a minute. We're going to move on to something else in just a second. Okay. So standard jury instruction reads, in part, it is the defendant's burden to prove that one or more mitigating circumstances exist. Mitigating circumstances and need not be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Instead, the defendant need only prove a mitigating circumstance by the greater weight of the evidence, which means evidence that more likely than not tends to establish the existence of a mitigating circumstance. If you determine by the greater weight of the evidence that a mitigating circumstance exists, you must consider it proven and give that evidence such weight as you determine it should receive. You need not search a unanimous decision about whether the defendant has proven the existence of a mitigating circumstance. Any juror persuaded as to the existence of a mitigating circumstance must consider it in this case. Now, Section 2 does not impose a burden of proof on the defendant to prove a mitigating circumstance. Now, one of the things that we do know is Stefan was ran over by that truck when he was, 7 or 9? Hit by a Toyota 4x4 pickup truck. And now him and his mom can't stand those kind of Toyotas. And so his mother talks about how after he was hit, he had a traumatic brain injury. And Stefan was never right after that. Now we've heard through a lot of those documents all the alleged problems this dude had. Are they going to come in with that defense? Do you know what I mean? And they want certain juror instructions read so that you take that into account and weigh it against everything. So, well, he had this TBI. Did he really know? Look how stupid he was after he did what he did. It proves he's not bright. I don't know if the Florida courts or if a jury will buy it. You know what I mean? If they bring that in. There was one more document I wanted to look at before we move on to the next thing. And let me get, ooh, not that. It's this death penalty one. Oh, this is actually a clip we're going to watch. Let me get the screen up. Idaho court sounds suspiciously run like Utah, just saying this whole case is missing key. Yo, that's a Idaho 4 case. You know, this case on Stefan Stearns is out of Florida. We're going to move into the Idaho 4 case in just a minute. He knew what the hell he was doing, TBI or not. Thank you, Firefly. Exactly. Okay, let's did they have a video in this one? I can't remember if I did or not. Stupid ad thingies. I need some turmeric.
I've got a ginger turmeric supplement that I take every day.
I just ordered a turmeric supplement, but it doesn't have ginger in it. Why would you have ginger in it?
Because we need ginger in our life as well as we need turmeric in our life. So why not do them both?
Well, I know the turmerics are like anti-inflammatory, but the gingers with nausea, so I guess that might. Hey,
yeah, and digestion. Ginger helps with digestion too. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right, here we go. Some Julie Brown. Can we hear it? No.
Motion arguing that Florida's death penalty is unconstitutional. Stearns' attorneys say that aspects of a Florida law that outline aggravating factors are overly vague and subject to being applied in an arbitrary and inconsistent manner. Now, Stearns is separately facing dozens of charges that he sexually abused Madeline and will go to trial later this month on those charges. Let's get you caught up on the case evidence. Here's Court TV's Cody Thomas.
We know digital forensic evidence has been central to the investigation into the death of Madeline Soto. And I traveled to Osceola County, Florida to get a firsthand look at the crime scenes. What quickly became apparent is just how much surveillance video the prosecution should have. So we will begin right here at the Venetian Bay Apartments where Jen Soto and Stefan Stearns and Madeline lived. We'll pause right here just to get a scope of the scene and how protected this complex was. First and foremost, a security guard is out front, so no one's coming in and out without having to check in with this guy. We see that a car right here was already getting checked when I was there a few months ago. Also, what we notice, cameras over here, and a big gate. So this is not just a complex that anyone can roll into and roll out of. Now we'll move along to the back gate. Now this gate is where prosecutors say they have video of Stefan Stearns here yet again, more cameras, going in and out on the morning that Madeline went missing, to the dumpster, also in the complex. What do we have? More cameras, even here looking at the dumpster. Now, what's important to note about this dumpster here is that this is where police say they found Madeline's backpack and school-issued laptop. And also they say they have Stearns on video throwing those things away. This is around the time that she was found and declared dead, but what's important is this memorial is right in front of this area right here, because in these trees, in that thicket of trees, is where Madeline's body was eventually found by police about 5 days after she went missing. Now, of course, all this was leading up to the eventual arrest of Stephen Stearns in March of 2024 when police picked him up on sexual assault charges. Stearns was then later charged with the murder of Madeline Soto.
That was Cody Thomas, Court TV reporter, talking about this case. Now let's bring in the former state attorney in Palm Beach County, Florida. He is in private practice now, attorney Dave Ehrenberg. Dave, good morning to you and congratulations on your big move. I hope this means we get to see more of you.
Yes, Julie, great to be back with you. In fact, the first week after I went into private practice, I was teaching at Harvard Law School's Trial Advocacy Workshop with Linda Kenny Bodden, who was just on your show.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Joe Tacopina.
You were teaching there too. She was just, oh my gosh. We're going to have you two on the show. If we can coordinate that, you're both such busy people. We'll try. But that is really awesome.
It's one big... Thank you. It's like 2 degrees or 1 degree separation of Julie Grant. It's a big family. And yeah, I got to meet Joe Tacopina, who is quite an interesting character, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Oh, I bet he was thrilled to meet you. Wow, that is awesome. I want to come. Next time you all are teaching, I want to come to the class and I'll be a witness or something. I'll offer to be a witness for the kids and give them some practice. Oh my goodness. Okay, Dave, so let's start here. I want to start here with the choice prosecutors are making to try the sex abuse case before the homicide case. What do you think about that move?
You know, it's interesting because usually you'd go for the more serious one first because after all, the murder charge carries the death penalty. You could seek the death penalty on the sex charges under Florida's law, although it's a relatively new law and they haven't tested the constitutionality yet. So if this defendant, Stephen Stearns, wanted to challenge the death penalty as it applies to the sex abuse, I think actually he may have a claim there, but the state is not seeking the death penalty for the sexual abuse, which perhaps is why they're going first. They think they've got him dead to rights on the sexual abuse. They're not seeking the death penalty. It's going to be easier and faster. Let's get that out of the way. And then when he's found guilty of that charge, they can use that as an aggravating factor to seek the death penalty in the murder case. So I think that's why they're going first with the sexual abuse.
Okay, interesting. Thank you for that, because that was a head scratcher. When I saw that, I'm thinking, what? Why aren't they going with the homicide case first? And we know that's what he's so fixated on. He's fixated, of course he is, on potentially getting the death penalty here. Do you think the motion is defending the Florida law that's currently on the books?
No, that is a reach, and it shows how desperate he is to avoid the death penalty, and that could give a little bit of satisfaction to those of us who think this guy is one of the worst, and the way he made Madeline suffer, allegedly, is just so horrific. It's hard to even put your head around it, and now we see him desperately scared of getting this death penalty. So there's a little bit of schadenfreude there, I think, in what's going on. But I don't think he's going to win on any of these claims. These aggravators have been around for a long time, since 1996, and they're used continuously in capital cases. I used them many times as a prosecutor, as a state attorney. So the fact that he's now saying that after so many years of this, 28 years plus, that this is all unconstitutional, that ain't going anywhere.
Dave.
Yeah, it ain't going nowhere, Stearns. It is not happening. Oh, let's see. Wrong button. Firefly, I sent you a DM if you want to check that. Let me get caught up with chat here before we get moving on to our next part. So yeah, I don't think he's gonna be successful in challenging much. You know what I mean? He might get his words chosen carefully for court, murder versus homicide or whatever, but you know, getting the all the other stuff, I don't think it's not gonna work for him. Yeah, I slid into her DMs. I did. I was like, girl. Let me see. Who was this? Debbie, welcome in. This is your first time catching a live. Well, we appreciate you coming in and being here. And you had said you have a relative, your dad, was it? Your dad? She says her dad practiced law in Idaho. He follows this case in depth and says it stinks to high heaven of corruption and narrative. That's interesting. Interesting take. I mean, there are a lot of people who agree with that. So I would like to know why, though. That would be cool to find out the specifics as to why. I'm always interested in that part of it. Let me pull up. I checked this morning before we. Oh, okay, Firefly, I got you. I checked the docket this morning, and let me look at it again really quick. Nothing new had come down. I'm going to pull the screen up just a second.
Oh, okay. Haven't missed anything.
No, nothing. Go ahead, Joe.
I'm just going to say I can't go to crime camp. I'm sorry. That's March 16th and 19th. Hosted by the University of Florida Maples Center. That's cool. That's awesome. I would love to go, but I don't think Lori Vallow Daybell's trial is going to be over by then. Like, jury selection starts March 31.
Oh,
like
okay.
That's going to go like a good 4 weeks, right? Between jury selection and the actual trial.
It depends.
That looks cool. That looks really cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I'm in Florida, so I wouldn't mind going down there and being a part of that. It sounds like it'd be fun. Okay, let me pull up the screen. Yeah, Dolphin, nothing has come down since that notice of intent to use.
Okay.
That we were looking at. Okay, so this is the last document that came down in the Idaho 4 case. And it's got the people talking. It's kind of burning down the internet right now. Oh, you're good to come in and talk about the Idaho 4. We were doing something else. You're fine. You're good. I tried to put them in order too on the thumbnail so y'all would know which one. 'Cause usually when we start Kohberger, it turns into, you might not get to your other parts. So I tried to get them out of the way first. So in case we get into that, because once you start into this case, it kind of can, it can be a hot minute. So this was filed by the state of Idaho in the case. It is Notice of Intent to Use IRE 404B Evidence. So comes now the state of Idaho by and through Ashley Jennings, Latah County Senior Deputy Prosecutor, and hereby gives notice pursuant to Idaho Rule of Evidence 404B2, and we have that rule. We'll look at it. The state of Idaho intends to present evidence of crimes, wrongs, or other acts, specifically video of traffic stop occurring at West Pullman Road and Farm Road in Moscow, Idaho on August 21st, 2022, involving Brian Kohberger and Latah County Sheriff's Office Corporal Darren Duke. Discovered the AV file, and those people were right in the very, very beginning. If it had AV attached at the beginning, it was like a video file. And that's going to be the body cam from Corporal Darren Duke's body cam. So there's something about that they were going to use. Okay. The state intends to introduce this evidence for the purpose of providing defendants' identity, vehicle, address, and phone number. The issue has been previously addressed by the court in the December 15th sealed order denying motion to dismiss indictment on grounds of biased grand jury, inadmissible evidence, lack of sufficient and prosecutorial misconduct. Now, we remember when that came down. So we all knew there was 2 traffic stops, and by the female officer where he went through the intersection, and got stopped there. And then we knew that there was another stop that he had gotten pulled over for a seatbelt, what we were told was a seatbelt infraction. And this stop is located near Pullman Road and Farm Road, and it's not far from the King Road house. And we'll take a look at a map at that as well. But let me pull up this evidence code and tell you guys what it said. because it's weird that they would need to I mean, I understand that that may help them ID him, but wouldn't his ID that you found in when you queried the cars also do it? I don't know when they discovered this video that they had it, as far as the process of the investigation, but when it finally was revealed. So Dolphin and I were talking about that because this stop happened when August, Dolphin, is that correct? And
I think it was like what, the 21st or something.
yeah, so it happened, a few months before the crime. And what about it is so significant, right? Is it just that it's in close proximity to the home? Is it placing this particular person in this particular model car, color, year, all the things that match what we say we're telling you? So if you look at that particular Rule 404 B2, okay, B, crimes, wrongs, and other acts. Number 2, permitted uses, notice in a criminal case. This evidence may be admissible for another purpose, such as proving motive, opportunity, intent, preparation, plan, knowledge, identity, absence of mistake, or lack of accident in a criminal case. And then it goes on to what they must do about their filings. So they're going to be using that in this case somehow. I mean, as far as the evidence goes. Dolphin, do you have thoughts on what the particulars could be behind wanting to use that?
Oh, hold on one second. I'm in the middle of something.
Oh, you're good. What about you, Joe?
I'm still trying to catch up.
Oh, so anyway, I don't know either because it's allegedly a video stop, and he received a seatbelt infraction, and then there's body cam. We know for sure there is body cam of the officer interacting with him, but what does it show? Does it just show him taking his ticket? And this is proving this is the guy that drives this car. I don't know. Was there something particular about it that, are they just trying to prove that, during this stop, his phone actually pinged right where this car was at, therefore establishing our phone pings and our video camera footage are all accurate?
That is a good point.
There's a lot of ways you could look at it, right? To establish. Apparently, one of the known victims' mother. I know. I'm fully aware of who you're talking about and what you're talking about. But I have not seen one single person in 2 years come to the table with a receipt to back any of that up. I clearly know all that rumor, hun. And I don't discredit it or discount it, but even Ann Taylor doesn't mention the possibilities of those things happening, like a third-party type deal yet that we've seen. Look, I scrolled down accidentally too far. No, let me go take a little slow scroll through Lori's stuff. Okay, so that was the last. Let me mark that off my thing here. That was the last document that came down that, as of yesterday. So we'll
Question.
see. Go ahead.
In the PCA, when they mention this traffic stop, don't they also make a point to say that this is where he gave his phone number, the 8458 phone number?
I believe so. Because remember, everybody was like they got his number from the traffic stop. We'll pull the PCA up and we can look at that. Do you remember when they were saying in court the other day about what the defense said there was 2 towers, and then the prosecution said no, there was
3.
Yeah. And then, the judge said something about a Franks hearing. I didn't realize I had this still. A tower map from Moscow. I got one from Pullman, and I also had one from Lewiston back when we were looking at all of that stuff. Let me pull this screen up. Because I don't even remember this one came from a website. And I've had it saved, I guess, for a long time. You remember this? Yeah.
Yeah, vaguely.
And it won't let me. Oh, there we go. Because I know, being a major university, well, not major, but it's a big university. You got a lot of students. You got to have some pretty damn good Wi-Fi happening
Yeah.
throughout the area. You got to have good service. If you didn't have a college there, and you were a tiny town like mine, you're not going to have as many. Who needs all that? But here you are. So in town, it makes no sense that your phone doesn't ping in town. And I don't know if these locations listed over here on the left are even accurate. I don't know. But according to this, it says the results summary is 29 towers and 138 antennas within a 3.0 mile radius of 1122 King Road. To me, that sounds like a lot of activity going on around there, and then I had the one from Pullman. So I know people have been debating for 2 years about how many towers were in those areas, and there's been a lot of different material put out about it and speculation, and so I cannot even pretend to act like I know, people. I'm not going to tell y'all a lie. This is from registered cell phone antenna towers in Pullman. Whoops. So full list of 4 CC registered towers in Pullman. So I guess they're going by there's difference between the antennas and the registered towers and different things like that. So if you're looking at that, this says there's 4. Now I'll have to see how many are registered towers in Moscow. I was looking at the chat for a second. There's one thing I wanted to show. Let me get this other screen up. Oops, that took the whole thing out. There was an let me find it here. Let me get to my one thing I was going to review with you guys is I don't think that Joe has seen this yet either. It's a very interesting document that came down a long time ago. Oh, do I have it starred? I do. Okay. This is a filing from June of 2023.
Okay.
I'm going to just check the chat real quick. Everybody good over here? Hey, 12 Gauge, welcome in. Good morning. Well, Debbie, nobody was asleep through it. We know that. I mean, not the new filings. In the hearing, they even talked about Dylan's statements and how she was hearing and not seeing things. Only saw one thing, bushy eyebrow guy, but she was hearing things. And she was definitely texting with Bethany downstairs, who was not asleep because Bethany was responding. But then they went to sleep. So there's a lot of questions, I know. All right, this, like I said, this was, and it's just an interesting read. Joe doesn't know a lot of the documents like we do. There's so darn, like I've told him, there's so darn many. We're really going to have to go, like if we want to deep dive certain ones, we're going to have to take like an entire show to do them. But that's okay. Especially because I don't want people to walk away confused or not knowing something. And I've dropped the link in my, community tab, for people to grab it and keep it, and you can go look at these documents at your own leisure anytime you want to. You don't have to try to find a YouTube stream that's going to talk about a particular document. Go get it, go read it, take your time reading it, because some of them are lengthy, and make your own conclusions. And that's why I drop the link. That's why I like to go over the documents. And a lot of times we forget what all has happened because it's been such a long case. But
Yeah, and there's so
ahead.
many documents that's why I love this interaction, because you just said the key thing: come to your own conclusions, and we're going to come to more conclusions during the trial. But there's so many documents and people are so polarized that they will pick and choose the documents that they want to share and point to, and the facts that they want to share and point to, and they will ignore the other ones that may draw you in a different direction than what the conclusion that they've already come to in this.
Yeah.
So let's explore all of them. Let's go down
Yeah.
all of them. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, because I had a thought the other day, something we were talking about the drunk turkey interviews with Christy Gonzalez and that one we can't find, Dolphin. And then I got to thinking about something. Do you remember back, what was it, last June? Would have been a year ago almost. They was running those YouTube warrants, and I was like, why are they running YouTube warrants this late in the game? You're right. If things had been on track, we'd be at trial. But now we're over here doing YouTube warrants, and it got real specific. It wanted the subscribers, the comment section, and I was going to review that warrant too. But yeah, Joe, we do that. Dolphin and Firefly and I, we love to sit around and go through them, read them, try to understand them. And now that we are learning more, to go back and read some of the older ones is always interesting to me. So let me get a drink of my Coca-Cola here, guys. Okay. Now this was filed by, well, I call him Friday Filer. His name is Jay Logston, one of Brian Kohberger's attorneys. Jay has a way with words. Yeah, toxicology is going to be important, but they didn't do toxicology on Dylan because Dylan wasn't unalived, but she admits that she was drinking and all that. Forrest, did you just, guys, Forrest just gifted out some more memberships. Now you are lead investigators. Let's see. Kelt, welcome. CT Girl, Squishy Bum, Bonnie Bailey, and Lana Gen X 76. Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. Thank you, Forrest. We appreciate that.
Yeah, that was nice of him.
Yeah, he's done that several times now, and I've been taking you guys who are members over on the channel, you have a membership page, and I post things in there to you guys. I drop little videos in there. I'm getting better at it. I've dropped one, and I set up a poll, kind of like, what I want to do a nighttime stream, and I want to do a members only as well. But I've been, asking you guys when, what's best for you guys. You want to do it on a weeknight, on a weekend page, and yeah, we'll check things out. Our first members only live is going to be a deep dive into Rex Heuermann, the LISC. There's still one thing that I'm trying to find that I really want to use for that show, and I don't know if it's scrubbed from the internet or not, and I got to figure that out. So I am working on that whole entire project. So anyway, again, thank you, new members, for coming in for us. Thanks for gifting them. We're happy to have you guys. Okay, so this, like I said, was filed back in June of 23 from Jay Logston. Jay Logston, Chief Deputy Litigation, and hereby objects to the state's motion for protective order filed June 16th on the grounds that the material the state seeks to hide is discoverable and must be provided to Mr. Kohberger. Now remember, take everything Jay says with a grain of salt, and a lot of the stuff that he talks about now they already have settled, but we're just kind of going back over this. Some factual background here. On November 13th of 2022, law enforcement responding to a 911 call found Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin deceased. Law enforcement later found a K-bar knife sheath placed next to Ms. Mogan on her bed. The sheath was placed button side down. That's where Jeff was talking about. in the filing. He said that it was, remember that the other day, Joe?
Yep. Yeah.
That's where it is right there. The sheath was placed button side down and partially under Ms. Mogan and the comforter. On November 20, which if that had happened like that, makes you wonder, was it snapped, preserving whatever was inside, and that little flake of skin didn't fall out. On November 20, 2022, the Idaho State Lab in Meridian, Idaho, located DNA on the button of the sheath and performed STR analysis that led nowhere and ran through CODIS, Combined DNA Index System, other than to show the provider was a male. By December 17, 2022, lab analysis were aware of 2 additional male DNAs within the house where the deceased were located. Now there it says 2 additional males. We just heard about those 2 additional males in the hearing, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, Firefly, we don't know if it was snapped or unsnapped at that point, but if it was found, like Jeff explained, if it was upside down and if it was a little under her with the weight of her body, would it have forced that snap together? And maybe not a full on snap, but enough where they were touching, you know what I mean? You get the gist of that. But that's a good question, isn't it? Was or wasn't it?
Well, I don't know. I'm thinking if I'm, the killer or whatever, I'm walking in the house, this knife was in a sheath when I came in, I unsnap it to pull it out. I'm going to, maybe put it back in that sheath, when I leave before I get back in the car. Why snap it? Just to have to unsnap it later.
Yeah. But what we're saying is if it was unsnapped, once it was under her, maybe if the pressure from her made the 2 snaps touch each other or come together. Not like he snapped it back together.
Okay.
But just her body being on it, pressing on it, did it kind of snap a little bit. Not even have to be a
According
full
to
on.
Jeff H, though, what does that bring to the case?
No, we were discussing what did that happen, and if so, could that have preserved the little, because everybody's like it was a speck of skin, you know what I mean?
It was down in the grooves, though. It wasn't
exactly
on top of the snap. Everybody thinks it was on top of the button.
No,
It's
we're talking
actually
about
right down in there.
Yeah, right down in there. But people were trying to say that it was such a small amount, or
Well,
it should have fallen out. Could have fallen out. So we were
What if-
theorizing: did that occur when the body was on it? Did the snaps come together at that point?
Or if he
Or could they
got
have?
that skin, what if he got that skin cell inside of the snap before he ever left to go do the thing?
Oh, I'm sure he did.
So he unsnapped it, but it was still in there. And even
Yeah.
if it was upside down or right side up or whatever, it doesn't matter because it was already in there and he just forgot it because in the heat of the moment, he's like, oh crap, there's more people here. There's more stuff to do.
No. That's not I completely. We were people who kept saying that it was unsnapped. The little skin cell would have fallen out, right?
No.
What if? I know that. But you'd be surprised at the people who don't know that. All we were doing was saying was theorizing. We
Right.
theorized. No one knows anything. That if the body came down on top of the sheath, did it put the 2 snaps back together, which could have even preserved that DNA inside that snap even more. And I'm almost positive whoever did this had on gloves during the attack, and that DNA was placed there while they were still at home, long before those murders occurred. And they
Agreed,
thought-
100%.
Yeah,
Agreed, 100%. Yeah.
He thought it was clean, spotless. But no, you left that one tiny cell they can develop a profile from. So yeah, whether or not the thing was snapped or not is completely irrelevant. It was just
Agreed.
a theory
I
we were
agree.
talking about. Yeah, that was a complete. I need to make that clear to anybody listening. That was a theory discussed. Read my banner.
Yeah, someone else's theory.
Yeah, and I said that. It was Jeff's. When Jeff came
Yeah.
up, we were talking about that. And because he had mentioned it was in a filing about the sheath being placed button side down. And that's when we were wondering if that, theorizing something. That's completely all that was. This case is so damn freaking out of control. All right. So they ran that through CODIS. By December 17th, lab analysis were aware of 2 additional male DNAs within the house where the deceased were located, and another unknown DNA on a glove found outside the residence on November 20th, 2022. So that was well after the murders, right? Several days. To this date, the defense is unaware of what sort of testing, if any, was conducted on these samples other than the STR DNA profiles. Further, these 3 separate and distinct male DNA profiles were not identified through CODIS, leading to the conclusion that the profiles do not belong to Mr. Kohberger. Exactly. Yeah, they never said they didn't find anybody else's DNA on that sheath. They did say they found a male, single source male DNA. I'm pretty sure Maddie's blood would have probably been all over that damn thing. But they can tell the difference between her blood and single source male DNA. If they can't tell that kind of stuff by now, what are we even doing? While this was an ongoing police investigation, many various possible suspects, many of them provided DNA. At least one had his DNA surreptitiously taken from a discarded cigarette. So see, they were investigating people and other people before Kohberger was investigated and arrested. Sorry, I was looking at something real quick. Okay.
I'm going to let you handle Debbie's comment in chat.
Oh, wait, let me see it. Okay, let me go over here and look at it. Well, she wasn't just laying there when it happened, according to Ann Taylor. She was texting with Bethany. Now, what Dylan was doing, we've went around and around for 2 years about what Dylan was doing, or what Dylan didn't do, what Bethany didn't do. And the more that comes out, including what Ann even stated in the last hearing that were made in the statements by Dylan, sounds like Dylan was heavily intoxicated and a naive 19-year-old girl who was 2 weeks new to a party house. And this is a theory, because I don't know. It's one of the possibilities. That she was so heavily intoxicated, she thought she was hearing partying noises. She thought she was hearing that the dog annoyed her. The annoying dog is barking now. Now there's people moving around the house. I'm hearing noises. Are you hearing what I'm hearing? Then the noises all stop. I saw a guy leaving, going toward the back slider. I guess they're done now. Could it have been just all that? We'll find out, because the cops have every single text message between the 2 girls. And if they were texting nefarious things to one another, the cops have that. Now, will the cops cover up for 2 19-year-old drunk girls? Unless one of them's their daughter? That's where your mind has to go. I mean, that's where I go anymore with the conspiracy stuff, because I'm waiting on Ann. Just like in Delphi, I believe that case is a madhouse of a case, and I believe that Rick Allen got everything done wrong. But they brought up a third-party defense that was actually investigated by the prosecution. Here, Ann Taylor's not one time mentioned any third-party anything. So until she does that, I can't get behind any of the rumors that we hear, or the Dylan theories that she did it. Because I'm telling you, if she did, and Ann Taylor had any kind of evidence of a cleanup or a cover-up, we would be hearing about all of that in filings. Now, Jay gets a little spicy with his sheath planting idea, but that is the only time it's ever mentioned, right? We'll just have to continue to see where Ann goes with it, but it doesn't sound like Ann's going down conspiracy roads. She's going down, they're trained improperly. They don't know how to interpret this data that they're using to get my client on. This IGG investigative tool is illegal and unconstitutional. These are the things we're hearing from Ann. Kind of like Stefan Stearns over there fighting the Constitution to save his own life, or, using it to his benefit. Exactly. She should have called 911. I think we can all agree. We can all agree that whatever Dylan was doing didn't make any sense. But we have no evidence to say she did anything to her roommates yet. If there was a cleanup in the house, Anne would definitely know about it. She's got all the crime scene photos, and she's not one time mentioned cleanup occurred at the house. While this is an ongoing police investigation, many various possible suspects. Okay, we got the cigarette discarded. Many also had their phones taken and downloaded. So there was many people's phones taken and downloaded. DNA is collected. A cigarette butt collected. One area of the investigation had to do with a white sedan seen on camera located at 1112 King Road, first glimpsed by officers on November 18th. First glimpsed by officers on November 18th. By November 25th, police believed the car to be a white Elantra and asked law enforcement to be on the lookout. So they had a bolo put out on the 25th. Precisely how the police came to believe the car was an Elantra is still unknown. A report from the analysis for the FBI dated March 21st showed 2023. I have to keep forgetting the years now. It was 2 years later. I got to put that year in there. Shows the analysis heavily relying on a video of a car heading in the wrong direction at the wrong time on Ridge Road. Remember, she brought up that Ridge Road footage in court the other day, and I told you guys Walenta Drive is Ridge Road, like a very small section of Walenta. For some reason, right smack in the middle is Ridge, and it's like a little curve there, and that's allegedly one of the clearer images of the car that they have on camera. But she claims it's going in the wrong direction here, or not she, but Jay. The state's latest filing admits that someone within all of this, they engaged in investigative. I'm sorry, I messed that up. The state's latest filing admits that somewhere within all of this, they engaged in investigative genetic genealogy using the DNA taken from the button on the sheath, and now claims that it is due to the use of this technique that tipped local law enforcement to investigate Mr. Kohberger. It remains unclear what the police first relied on in focusing their investigation on Mr. Kohberger. No matter what came first, the car or the genetic genealogy, the investigation has provided precious little. There is no connection between Mr. Kohberger and the victims. There is no explanation for the total lack of DNA evidence from the victims in Mr. Kohberger's apartment, office, home, or vehicle. Lack of. In essence, through the lack of disclosure and their motion to protect and the genetic genealogy investigation, the state is hiding its entire case. Now, you got to remember, this was like a 2-year ago filing, and they were saying the state was hiding their entire case, but yet Anne's had so much discovery turned over to her, she's complained about it. So you either haven't gotten enough, or you've gotten too much, or you're somewhere in the middle. You can't find what you're looking for yet. What's going on here? Oh, welcome in. Donnie does the dishes. I started my dishwasher early this morning. I didn't do it last night. Clean up. I wish I had like an automatic house cleaning lady. Now, then I'd get bored. I like to clean. Okay. The state apparently thinks they need not explain how they came to think that it was Mr. Kohberger's DNA on the sheath. That's an interesting statement right there. Yeah, the state apparently thinks they need not explain how they came to think that it was Kohberger's DNA. Presumably, IGG. Presumably, the defense is expected to accept at face value that the sheath had touched DNA just waiting for testing by all the FBI's myriad resources. Additionally, the defense... Did you hear what that said? They need to take it they have to accept at face value that the sheath had touched DNA, just waiting for testing. So you accept that at face value. You mean you think there could have been a possibility there wasn't no DNA on it? The defense is to guess whether the state focused its investigation on Mr. Kohberger via a bizarrely complex DNA tree experiment or through its faulty identification of the vehicle involved in the case. See, it's all going to come down to which came first, the chicken or the egg, the car or the DNA, and they were coming down the pipe at the same darn time. But you can't come into court and say, well, this IGG pointed right at him, because it didn't. It pointed at his sister or closest relative. The father's all the people are on the tree, but Kohberger's not, because he didn't upload his stuff to the... Well, Anne never answered that question, did she? And I'm assuming the answer was no, because she would have had to say, well, okay, I'm here arguing his right to privacy on the databases. But when the judge pressured her on that, she never would answer the question, because she knows he didn't. So then if it was not, if his specific DNA was never uploaded to a database, that tree's not going to show him. It's going to show all his relatives, all the way back down to whoever did put it on there. Dad, sister, whatever. I wonder how many of my family members have DNA uploaded. I'm going to have to ask around. How many of y'all have thrown our DNA out there for the world to have? Perhaps unsurprisingly, Mr. Kohberger does not accept that his defense does not need this information. It rather obviously falls within the ambit rule of 16b4 and 5, a fact the state's briefing makes clear in its kitchen sink approach to their briefing. The state begins their argument claiming Rule 16 has no interest in IgG testing, and then ends their argument claiming that somehow people will stop sharing their genetics if they were to realize the government is watching. That's true. Both arguments must fail. Now remember, this was filed back when they were still trying to get all the IgG information turned over to them. And then Judge held this big thing in his chambers where he went over all of the IgG material in person, and he had help in there with him. And then he had to decide what the defense could have for them and their investigators to look through versus what they couldn't have, and like redacted stuff. So they did all that, and Anne got a lot of stuff turned over to her, which normally in cases with IgG, that doesn't happen. So Anne got a really big win that day when the judge agreed to do that for her. So it's not like they're getting railroaded in Idaho, because the defense certainly has not been railroaded. They've been pretty much given a lot of leeway, given all their hearings, all their motions are being heard. You know, nothing's denied across the board. It's so. I haven't seen anything unfair happening with the judges yet, either one of them. Y'all get tired of hearing me reading, y'all let me know. Yeah, Anne didn't answer a lot of questions. She didn't. And I've been reviewing more of that. In fact, I dropped a video this morning on Detective Mowry and his training and background, because I saw something. So I was like, let me fix this. Let me fix this. Hold my beer. I don't drink, but whatever. To begin with, the state apparently only wants to prevent Mr. Kohberger from seeing how the IgG profile was created and how many other people the FBI chose to ignore during their investigation. Who did they ignore? Other members of the family tree? Because Mowry actually testified the other day that some of the communication with the FBI and Apple was to do with the FBI's stalking investigation. Got that on that video too. In essence, the state argues that if the later STR testing is accurate, then there is no reason to concern ourselves with how the state came to investigate Mr. Kohberger. State's brief at 9. What the state argument asks this court and Mr. Kohberger is to assume that the DNA on the sheath was placed there by Mr. Kohberger and not someone else during an investigation the state refuses to name. Now, is that remember the other day when she said it went from the state lab to Othram, or it goes from the lab over to Othram, then to the FBI. But in between Othram and the FBI, it went somewhere else. But they didn't know where. Is that what he's talking about here? Is she still trying to find that part out? Because she deserves to know that part. I mean, if you're sending it to these random places, you need to, that's chain of evidence or chain of custody for that particular piece of evidence. Where all did it go needs to be documented. So I don't blame them for wanting to know that as well. So someone else during an investigation. So how do they think it got there? If it's actually his DNA, because they swabbed him once he was arrested and it matched what Sheath had. So if he didn't place it there himself, how do they assume during the investigation that spans hundreds of members, law enforcement, I don't know. How do they think it got there? Perhaps most puzzling is the state's argument that while Rule 16b-5 requires them to turn over the result or reports from specific investigations, it does not require the state to disclose what law enforcement does with the results or reports. State's brief at 14. First of all, that sounds like an admission that the information as to how the IGG was carried out should be disclosed. Second, what law enforcement does with results or reports is covered by Rule 16b-6. Statements of prosecution and witness and police reports. Frankly, the fact that members of the FBI are concerned about permitting Mr. Kohberger to know what they were up to, FBI people, not Moscow. Where did what go? I don't know. I just saw Pokemom's comment. Can y'all not see the screen anymore? Can y'all hear me? Okay, I'm assuming y'all can hear me. Okay.
I can hear you. Sorry, I had a pickup order I had to go chase.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, the in-between labs. Thank you, Firefly, because I just saw... Oh, okay. Where did it go? I get you now, Pokemon. You confused me. I was like, where did it go? What happened? Did my screen go away? And then nobody was talking to me, so I didn't know if I had to make sure I didn't drop that the stream didn't go down. Thanks, guys.
No,
Okay.
Instacart is my thing. And
You got you some Instacart going?
yes, I did.
You got some goodies. I'm getting hungry, so stop. I don't even want to know what you got. I can't order anything out here. I don't have delivery way out here in the country. They stop about, I think, 12 miles down the highway. If I move, I could get it, but I'm not about to do all that. Okay. Perhaps most puzzling is the state's argument. I don't really want to read the whole thing. Finally, the state's claim applies to this matter is quite bizarre. Presumably, the independent company the government relied on was paid for its work and would stand by it in court. The state provides no real argument as to why the company needs to be protected. Mr. Kohberger is left to suspect they wish to keep their methods of being questioned. I wonder if it was some sort of FBI lab. But it went to the FBI lab. So what was the in-between bullshit? Why would you do an in-between unless there's another state lab out there somewhere? Because there's some pretty good labs across the country, other than the one in Texas, where Othram's at. There's other really good labs that it could have went to. But why not say that unless they're a secret lab? Do you know what I mean? Maybe they are having a big secret. We might have one real secret in Idaho after all. To the extent that there is some concern about intellectual property, that can be addressed via a protective order that permits Mr. Kohberger and his defense team to review their work. Second, the state appears to argue that everyone living on Earth that provides genetic information is unaware their DNA could be used by government somewhere for something. and that it is an informant within the meaning of the term in the rule. So remember, we kept hearing informant in this case, informant. Is it the sister? Is it the FBI? Well, it's allegedly the investigative genealogy tool is an informant. And once they come and focus down to that last person on the tree, we're informing you this could be your person or closest relative to your persons. Therefore that's an informant. Look, they even call it a DNA informant. What? The state citations to cases involving actual informants hardly help it make this incredible leap. No court has ever found the existence of a DNA informant. It would appear that the state is acknowledging that the companies are providing personal information to the state that those companies and the governments would suffer if the public were to realize it. Now, I can agree with that. Can you guys agree with that? The only two databases that allow access are ones that already inform their users, and those users can opt in to allow law enforcement searches. Now, we've heard about that. All the major ones, I think, have that. They can access GEDmatch, and then what was it, Heritage? Firefly, was it Heritage was the other one that they were able to access that we heard about? But I know that GEDmatch, they can access anytime they want to. But the rest, I think you have to opt out. I don't think you actually upload to GEDmatch. The companies upload to GEDmatch is the thing. To, say like if you got 10 different family members all uploading DNA to different companies, how do they find you and match you up to all your members? It all goes into a GEDmatch database. They can access that database. So whether you opted out over here, 123andMe or whatever it's called, but they sent it over here to GEDmatch to compare to Ancestry, boom, there you are in that system, unprotected, like you were over here. Does that make sense? I wonder if that's what happened. So I think out loud a lot, y'all, so y'all just have to bear with me. In fact, that the government is looking at the genetic information that people are sharing was at all an issue, then the state's very public acknowledgement of such investigation was clearly a big mistake. You do have to upload to GEDmatch. They don't do it unless you request. Oh, so you request that they do it and then they can compare it to all the other ones? Okay, that makes perfect sense if that's what you're explaining. Thank you. I appreciate when you guys got knowledge and can correct me or fill me in on something I'm thinking about out loud on. Oh, okay, Firefly, I see. Go ahead, Joe.
This is a topic that's going to probably have to end up in the Supreme Court.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It will. Sleuthie and I discussed that over a year ago in a Twitter space when we realized that the IgG was used. And now that when this all started popping off, we had this really long Twitter space one day. And we had a lot of great discussions in there about all kind of stuff. But that was one of the main topics that we got into. Was it just seems it was setting up precedents, right, for future case law. Will case law come about because of this case? Will this case be cited in the future during filings? You know how we keep seeing they refer to other cases? They're going to be referring to the Kohberger case in other cases in the future. I guarantee it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And maybe even Indiana versus Allen. We'll see. But this case, most definitely, especially with the constitutional gray area of the IgG, your DNA and all that, because it's not really been fought, you know what I mean? Contested Supreme Court rulings on it and things of that nature. And we know it's been used successfully in the past. This is just the only case that's ever challenged the IgG. So, he's not going to be successful at it. I doubt it, being the first timer, but he can set some case law precedent. I'm kind of tired of reading for a moment. I'd rather have a discussion, let people talk to me as
Right.
well. Yeah,
It
but
just
that's a long one, and it just goes to show a lot of the different things, in this case that came down the pipe, and we're going to have to do a longer deep dive and spend a couple hours on it, and I want to kind of go back, not kind of, I do want to start going back through the warrants and just kind of like a few a night, breaking them down and letting everybody get caught up when we are doing our shows. I think I may do like a series, because like Dolphin said, we got trial, in 6 months. So getting prepared for that and getting everybody caught up, it can take so long, but there's a way to do it.
Yeah. And the state wanted to have it before the summer. The state wanted like May, June trial.
And going back through some of the August or
Yeah, August. But the state wanted like May or June, right? They requested it to be a little earlier.
Yeah.
And Anne was
Well,
like, no, I'd rather have it August. So
yeah, well, they
they
were
went with
supposed to already have, we were going to have a preliminary hearing that got taken off the table when they popped off with their grand jury. Then we had trial set, and then they changed that and rescheduled the trial date. Now so it's been pushed back, and it's long enough. And then there was a back and forth between when it was going to be done in Latah, they wanted to do it in the summer because they needed to use the high school parking lot, which is right next door. They knew they were going to need that parking lot to accommodate media and all the things that come along with this high profile case. And that's a tiny courtroom with a tiny parking lot and a tiny high school next to it. And so, yeah, there's just been a lot with this case, and we're going to have to go through it. And I won't really, as we're prepping for trial, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on conspiracies that were happening in this case. There's plenty of channels out there who do, and they love it and they thrive on it, and you're personally will watch what I want to watch and what I don't want to watch. And I may watch somebody for 2 or 3 months before I get a true feel for them. And that will happen here as well. I know that. But I just will stay away from them. If they're brought up, yeah, I'm going to talk about it. But at some point, I get tired of talking about the conspiracies because there's no proof of any of it. It's just rumors. And Ann Taylor's not said a thing about it in any of her filings. Until she does, what am I supposed to do? I'm not going to sit here and make up stuff or pretend this could have happened. Yeah, all of these other things could have happened. We see that with too many cases lately. But I'm trying to stay neutral with Idaho, and I know how deep and crazy the rumor mill went with this case, and the rabbit holes went, and there's so freaking much it will make you not even want to touch this case.
Right. And I guess that's where this case diverges from Delphi. Like I talk all the time about the similarities between it, about the polarization of social media, how people will pick their sides and then they're going to sit on their sides. But there's no evidence to this point of a third-party nexus, whereas there is in Delphi. There was Ron Logan supposedly confessed that he did it while he was in Newcastle prison. And we have the other Odinist third-party suspects. And most of us agree there was some kind of a nexus there. However, Nikki McClelland disagreed and Judge Gold disagreed. So
it's
those
very
didn't get
different.
introduced.
The cases are very, 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 very different. I'm sure Anne Sprank's motion looks very, 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 very different than the one in Delphi. 136 pages in Delphi laid out a whole alternate scenario, complete with every person involved. Anne Sprank's is under seal, but I guarantee you, we already heard the motions and argument in court. They're all about fruit of the poison tree, not about cigarette butt dude did this. And you know it. Dylan did this, and you know it. Now, we don't know what's in that Frank's memorandum. It's until we, we'll know one day when it becomes unsealed. But until then, we don't know what hers is. But I don't think it's about a third-party suspect situation. I really, really doubt it.
Yeah.
She'd have brought that up in court, and she didn't. When she was in court talking about the motions to suppress, it was all about fruit of the poison tree. to get to her guy. So that's what that's about. But we'll continue to cover any of the updates that come down the pipe as well, and updates on Stearns and Ellen and all the different cases that we do follow as developments come down. I will be starting, so I'm still working on our members only live that we're going to do. I'm going to be starting my Crystal Rogers series soon. And I'm going to continue this Idaho stuff because we do need to go back. And Dolphin had a great idea for a show as well that I want to put together. It's just to give with different perspectives, from all the things that play. Because these roommates do bother a lot of people. They still do bother a lot of people. It still bothers me. I don't want to know that my 19-year-old may be so naive and intoxicated, they are unaware something horrible is happening outside the bedroom. I talked to my child about it when I found out that's what happened. At the time, he was 16. Like, this kid's going to be 19 here just before, now he's 18. And we still talk about that sometimes. Because I approached him and I asked him. And then I told him 8 hours went by. He looked me dead in my eye. He's like, excuse me? 8 hours? What was that about? And I was like, exactly. And then we started having conversations. I use a lot of things to open up the door for a conversation with my children. If I think it's relative, you know what I mean? And maybe that can be what you guys take away from this is talk to your young adult child, know your surroundings, know what's going. If you think you hear something, don't be afraid. Call 911, call me, call dad, whatever, call somebody. Don't chalk it up to I'm super intoxicated and I just think I'm hearing this, if that's what happened. But and see what we can learn. And there's not a new hearing scheduled yet. And like I said, we're still waiting on the judge's decisions as well on the Frank's hearing and on the motions to suppress. Susan Morphew, I know. I do keep my eye on Susan's case. I have followed it for a long time. Barry is quite the character, isn't he? That's a really good idea. So I think we'll put together a show for that as well. So we got Crystal Rogers we need to work on, and Susan Morphew we need to work on, and we'll be covering Idaho in between leading up to trial. And Joe's bringing us updates on the Lori Vallow case over there on his channel. Doing great with that coverage because she's also preparing for trial. So we've been pretty busy across the board, haven't we?
We have, and I haven't even started to touch on the Preston Lord and the Gilbert Goons here in Queen Creek. It was a teenage gang that beat a fellow teenager to death in 23 on Halloween evening after a Halloween party. So it's an interesting case just because it's a bunch of white privileged teenagers that got together and decided to make a gang and decided to beat people up and take money from them and stuff. And then eventually all of that turned into an actual murder. So there are 6 or 7 defendants in that. Some of them are minors. Some of them are now adults. So that's they're scheduled to start their pretrial hearings in April, I believe.
That's insane. There's let me see something. Okay, there's one before we go for the day. Let me pull this up. Oh, I want it open now. Oh, there it goes. This was a clip I found. I've had it for a while, but I have these playlists with all this stuff in it because it's been 2 years. So I have to keep going back and reviewing some of the stuff that I've had. Okay, I think this is it. Let me test my thing here. So this get passed. Okay, let me pull this up. This was from 2023, okay? And it's a news piece that I found on Mr. Koberger here. Okay.
Many questions unanswered in this investigation, but we are starting to learn more about the suspect before the murders. Our coverage continues tonight with investigative reporter Terry Parker, who joins us now in studio. Terry?
Right. A bar owner tells me Bryan Kohberger was so creepy around women, he had to confront him. And we've heard Kohberger was fascinated by the criminal mind, on his way to getting a PhD into how criminals think and act. I talked to a professor of criminology to see if this intensive study into crime could set someone up to consider murder. Well, Moscow police and the FBI were working feverishly to solve the murders of 4 Idaho students. The now arrested suspect, Bryan Kohberger, was 10 miles away from the crime scene, studying for his PhD in criminology at Washington State University. Was this deep interest in the criminal mind a telltale sign?
One of the things that professors in this field, in criminal justice and law enforcement, we always worry about this. It's always in the back of your head, right? That somebody you're teaching, you're training, however you want to look at it, could end up using it for something bad.
Retired NYPD homicide detective and criminologist Professor Joseph Giacalone says, though, studying criminology, even at an advanced level, doesn't make someone a master criminal.
Maybe he's a little arrogant in regards to that. And I think some of that is coming out. People think that they're smarter than the cops and they're going to get away with these things.
People who knew Kohberger are coming forward to paint a picture of a socially awkward person who could be mean, sometimes threatening. A bar owner in Pennsylvania who doesn't want to be identified tells me 2 years ago, a man he believes was Kohberger used to act so creepy to female customers, he had to tell him to stop. That Kohberger was asking people like where they lived and who they lived with, if they were there alone, just like very, very red flag questions that anyone who works at any bar ever should say, hey, whoa, like, what are you doing? The bar owner says after he confronted him, Kohberger never came back. Kohberger's lawyer says before Christmas, Bryan's father flew from his home in the Poconos to Washington State to drive Bryan back home in their white Hyundai Elantra, the same car police believe was seen speeding away from the crime scene.
Driving cross country took them approximately 2.5 days. Mr. Kohberger indicated that Bryan was.
And Giacalone, the criminologist, says police are likely looking for surveillance video before that trip to see if Kohberger had the car washed and detailed before his father took a 2-day trip in it with him. And
wouldn't that be some shit if they got him on video cleaning that car real good? It wouldn't prove anything.
No, so I got 3 comments on that little video clip.
All right.
First of all, Joe Giacalone. I love me some Joe Giacalone. I miss him.
Yeah.
He used to be online a little bit more. I think he's like backed off a little bit. But second of all, that bar owner said a person he believes was Bryan Kohberger.
Was Bryan Kohberger. Exactly.
So he doesn't have video evidence. He doesn't have really true eyewitness testimony that absolutely places Kohberger in that bar being creepy to the ladies. So I'm gonna have to like put that in the middle basket, not for or against.
No, he's the only one that doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
I was
gonna
point out that the guy couldn't act. Said he assumed it, or was pretty sure it was Kohberger.
I believe
everybody gets so mad at the media when they report on this case. Like you don't even know that I'm not the scale with people who support Bryan Kohberger are so anti-media. You're not allowed to say one bad thing, not one negative thing. So I need to point out that guy said he could not place Kohberger there for sure, but he was pretty sure it was Kohberger. So
right, he believes it was Kohberger. Okay, well,
yeah.
To be fair, I will appreciate the fact and point out the fact that he just believes it was, and it's not definitive proof that Bryan Kohberger was being creepy in a bar. But the other thing was, his dad said on the drive back from Washington State to the Poconos to Pennsylvania, he seemed like he was acting normal. Mm-hmm. Well, if your kid is a weirdo, is it normal that he was continuing to be a weirdo? Like,
exactly.
I'm not saying Kohberger was. I'm just saying that's also a subjective term. He seemed like he was acting normal. That's very subjective.
Yeah. Sarge. Oh, he went dark in August. I haven't seen him in a little bit. Yeah, it's been a minute since we've seen Joe. Yeah. What is Kohberger's normal though? His normal may have already been a weirdo. I mean, you just it is what it is. I know Ann Taylor had, she was questioning things like Mowry on the stand about his training and all that good stuff. And one of the earlier hearings back in May, she was kind of going with the line that, maybe you misinterpreted what Nick Balance's material was that he gave you to upload to the CastViz system and all this. They went down this whole thing with that. We still haven't got into Nick's testimony during the Chad Daybell trial to show you guys, to hear him explain this system. And we're going to do that in our upcoming show. But I did drop a video this morning. I'm not going to play it now. You guys can go look at the channel and it's there. And it's just a couple of clips I found about Detective Mowry, his background, his training. Two of the little pieces came right from his own words during the hearings. And then there was a piece I found from the city council. So I made a little video about it. It gives you a little background on him. Just, when Ann throwed something out there, I saw somebody else say something about it. I was like, well, let me show you. So like I said, I do it for y'all to make up your own minds about certain things. Does the guy have enough training? I don't know. He had started receiving training back in 2019 on, like computers and forensics and all that, but he was still undergoing more training at the time the crimes were committed. So it was just an interesting little thing. If you guys want to go check it out, go for it. But I'm going to have to wrap it up for the day. I have a Zoom meeting here in about an hour. I think Joe's got one coming up here in a little bit as well. So we're going to wrap it up for today. Joe, are you going to be live in the morning, or what do you got planned?
Yeah, so I've got to decide. I want to do like 3 live shows a week. So I've got Monday and Wednesday nailed down. So I got to figure out if I'm going to do the third one on a Friday or a Saturday morning.
There you go.
I'm still figuring it out. We'll see. Pay attention.
Well, when you get all linked up later and get your show set up, let us all know and we'll be there.
For sure.
All right, guys. So thanks for coming up today, Joe. Dolphin, I appreciate you coming up. You're probably enjoying your meal. She wasn't feeling good earlier, so we're going to let her eat. Chat, again, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And Forrest, thank you so much for gifting everyone memberships. You guys hit the like button, please. It helps us out. And those of you who are now members, go on over to the page and take a look at the membership page. And yeah, there's a couple of things in there for you guys. So until I see you again next time, thank you, Debbie. Thanks for coming in and sharing your thoughts with us. We appreciate it. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the morning when Joe goes live.
See everybody. Have a great Thursday.
Thank you all for watching this here video. Please like